All right, and we are live.
Woo.
We take a second to wait for Zach, and there he is first. What's up, dude? Good to see you on there. It's episode 11 of America Heals tonight. As we gather, we've got Ace and Luke, red blue over there, just being patriotic and holding it down on the east side, and I'm over here in Colorado. And Jeff is somewhere to be found. I'm sure he'll stumble in here eventually, but we are gathering tonight in a whirlwind of stuff that's going on in our country. And so this scope began 11 episodes ago and began around a conversation to try to suss out what was going on uh, right after the election. And here we are now at the end of the interim period, and Trump has been impeached this week. Since our last show, he's been impeached. We're dealing with the ramifications of seeing people step up into heroic roles on the Republican side to help that impeachment process and to show good faith and the beginning of good faith between the parties as we move forward. I entitled this "Moving Forward from Here," moving on from here. How do we do this? We're going to get into that a little bit tonight. We're going to talk about some impeachment stuff. We're going to talk about Republican opposition. We're going to talk about Joe Biden's speech today. There's just so much stuff going on. We're also going to listen to, and there's Jeff. Brother Jeff. What up, dude?
Whenever I have the desktop of Twitter up, it's like the messages don't scroll up or something anyway.
Welcome.
I'm here.
Welcome. We're live. Zach is the first one on the show, and we're kicking it off. And so just before we get going, let's introduce everybody here. We've got Ace on the river. Say hi, Ace.
Hey, how's everybody doing? It's a long day. I just got my flu shot today. Or not, I got my COVID shot, Pfizer. So I feel fine. I was a little tired for like 2 hours, took a nap, and I'm good to go.
Congratulations. And thank you for getting it. Like, what's the right response to that?
I mean, it is a little bit, I don't mean you don't have to thank me, but we should actually start thanking people because I heard some inside data and basically it's really not that great. It's there's like, I thought it was going to be 50%. It's way below 50%. I don't want to give the actual number, but it's way below 50%, like huge portion below. So, you get the point. And this is not just from one. This is like people are calling other places that have a ton of people that work there. And they're saying, oh yeah, it's a very low number.
Well,
so that's why because it won't get us to 60 or 70%.
I think it's important that we thank people for doing it because it's a patriotic act and it's an act of public health. You know?
Just because we're so concerned, we're actually making some promotional videos where people are taking them, they're talking about it, they're talking about days afterwards, weeks afterwards, and we're making this. I'm actually editing it. We're compiling these videos where the next rollout, when they come back, which is in about 30 days, they can start the next rollout for the next portion. We want to grab a chunk of them and tell them, here's 30 days of a person that just took it. Here's how they feel. You don't have to go up to them and talk to them. You could just see a video. So I love the idea. Sorry.
No, that's great. Mr. Luke Red Blue, welcome to the show tonight. From parts unknown, all that.
Thanks, Marty. So it's an honor as usual to be on the America Heals show.
Heck yeah.
I'm excited.
How's your life?
It's very interesting.
Okay, good. I can't wait to hear it.
All right.
And Mr. Jeff, how are things?
I'm good. I'm just here for the lulls, just to see what everybody else is bringing to the table. Well, I'm just going to be Ed McMahon tonight. Just whoa, yes. Yes, you're correct, sir.
I love it.
Are you going to bash people over the head with chairs?
Yeah, probably.
It's
That's
good.
man. That's Vince.
Some people need that.
It's a different
Sometimes that's what makes for good entertainment.
Some people need that kind of encouragement.
I do. Absolutely.
Well, I want to begin tonight with sort of a sentimental rant, and then we'll kick off into the impeachment stuff. We've all got stuff to say. So guys, get ready for your first run. But I want to say something on a positive note. I'm really freaking proud to be an American. I'm really freaking proud of a country that voted Joe Biden in. I'm really proud that even though we may be teeter-tottering with numbers that are way too close for comfort, and we have a lot of educational work to do, and we have a lot of organizational work to do, and we need to listen to the brokenness and the hurt from our people and have better governance. And I understand that government can be a bad thing, but overall, we have a patriotic country who stood up and said, Lady Liberty gets her day. We have been bullied and lied to and cajoled and breaking news to death. And our brains hurt, our hearts hurt, our country hurts. But out of the ashes and rubble of the Trump administration, what we're going to see, and we're starting to see it now with the Biden administration, we're starting to see people waking up. And the only reason I have hope is because the truth is out there. And you don't have to listen to a news source to do it. Your eyes can see that things are really bad. And so therefore, I'm really just, I want to celebrate and ring the patriotic bell and say that our process works, our Constitution is going to hold, and we need to celebrate that in the middle of all the rubble and craziness and revolution and all of it. We need to stand tall. So that's my pep talk as we get into tonight, because there's been a lot of patriotism talked about, and this probably leads us into the impeachment stuff right away. But watching members of Congress stand up on one side of that or not, one side saying it's a rigged system for the rich, for us who control power, and we're going to stay together in our weirdo cabal. And then the rest of the people and a few hard Republicans who are hard nuts to crack, easily cracked and spilt it on the floor by talking about justice and truth and the fact that our process matters. We are not a fascist country. We are dangerously close to falling into those traps, and we have to work very, very hard not to. But our democracy won this time, and we need to make it stronger. So that's the end of my sermon, my rant. But I'm pumped to be an American because we're winning, and it's a hard fight. So I'll leave it to the floor and see where we go into the impeachment stuff. I don't know which ball we want to even start with, but I'd like to kind of throw the first ball to Luke Red Blue and see where you're at and just see what's hitting your heart in terms of this stuff.
So when it comes to the impeachment, just before they took the vote, I was quite surprised to hear the idea that Mitch McConnell was actually open to the idea of this impeachment, and that perhaps he may even weigh in some way, one way or another. And of course, there's always two reasons for everything. There's the reason you tell everyone, and then there's the personal reason. I have a feeling that Mitch McConnell personally has an axe to grind, or at least has some misgivings with respect to Donald Trump. Donald Trump caused Mitch McConnell to no longer be Speaker of the House. Donald Trump didn't concentrate on what he needed to do in Georgia. And I live in Georgia, as does Ace, and we'll both agree that we had no business winning either one. And it's thanks to the fact that our opponent decided to lay down and tell all his followers to not join in, that we ended up winning that. And so Mitch McConnell sees that, and I think he also is taking stock of the situation, the fact that what happened the other day on on last Wednesday, was planned, and there may have been members of the House who were involved. And if that's the case, then Mitch McConnell is at a crossroads in which he has to decide, this may be the perfect opportunity to win back the mantle of the Republican Party, save the brand, and divorce it or excise the Trump part of it out so that they can move on to the future. And of course, none of us here are Republicans, but we have to understand what the other side is doing and the way they're looking at the world. And the way they're looking at it right now is, where do we go from here? And there's two choices. We can continue to be the party that represents fascism, or we can reinvent ourselves. And it's a good time. It's kind of like the new Dodge or whatever. It's an opportunity for them to reinvent themselves and say, that was all Donald Trump. That wasn't us. That was him. and then move forwards. Now, in the meantime, he's dithered a little bit, and I don't really know what's going to happen from here. I am concerned that after the 20th, what we're going to start hearing is, oh, look at these Democrats. All they want to do is get bogged down in impeaching a guy who's not even in power right now. But this leads me on to two quick last points, and then I won't need to say much more for a minute, and it helps us build towards the next thing. The first point is simply that forget Donald Trump for a second. You know, we all have personal misgivings towards the individual called Donald Trump. But at the end of the day, there was a horrible thing that happened last week, and there has to be some kind of a reckoning. The ledger has to be closed in some manner or form. When we had the Civil War, we closed that ledger. We signed amendments. We had a coming together. We passed the 14th Amendment, all kinds of things. We closed that chapter. When you speak to your grandchildren in the future and you teach them about civics, and you teach them about George Washington, and you teach them about the Civil War, and you teach them about, you know, the Great Depression, and then you say, and then there was this one thing that happened in history where the legislative branch was basically attacked by the President of the United States, and then the grandchild says, oh, and what did we do? Well, we didn't do anything. We didn't do anything. So we have to do something. We have to say that this isn't okay. You can't do this, and there's a reckoning for it. And so that leads me to my next little point, which is just that, and all of that is a problem for the legislative branch. It's something that needs to be sorted out on the floor of the two chambers, or at least the Senate chamber, but it has nothing to do with Joe Biden and what he needs to do. He's not even in power right now. He's a private citizen. Right now, when this is on your watch, senators. This is on your watch, House representatives. It's not a decision for Joe Biden to make, and that leads us to the speech that he gave today, the vision he has for the future, and I think that helps Marty jump in on the next sort of thing that he's trying to look towards.
Well, I'm able to go there, but I'm wondering, Ace is popping over there.
I'm over here popping.
Oh, well, I mean, well, okay.
It's a fair point, and we're going to come back to it. I want to dig down into three things you said. First of all, Luke, and so I'm writing them down because you dropped like 3 bombs that I need to dig down on. But I want to know where Ace is coming from.
Huge intro. Sorry about that.
No, dude, we're going there because you moved fast, and there's a lot in there. I'd like to unpack a little bit.
I was running around trying to not get hit by them. I got you. That's fine. All right,
Mr. Ace, let's hear where you're at as we kick off this just general concept of where are you hitting the impeachment ground running, and where you.
I mean, the impeachment ground. I agree. I mean, we have to do something. The problem is we cannot keep on. I'm done thinking that the Republicans are ever going to do the right thing until they do the right thing. But setting yourself up to hoping the Republicans do the right thing again is a terrible, terrible idea, because they will not. This is a perfect occasion for them. All they have to do now is they will have the trial. They will not argue any of the Donald Trump points, 0 of them. They will just say, hey, listen, I don't agree with what Trump did. That is terrible. But we're not arguing that. We're just arguing, can you remove a president after he's gone? And then the funny thing about that is people will come to you and they'll say, yeah, but their stances, this has been done before, and on and on and on and on. This is not a real court. It's a court of what they think. And this is the easiest way for Republicans to just take the easy way out and in the end give a no vote with a 15-minute speech how terrible Donald Trump is. And then that's it. That's all they'll do. They'll say, I cannot vote for this impeachment because it will set a precedent that you can remove a president after he's gone. Are we going to start removing George Washington? That's what Lindsey Graham said yesterday. Are we going to start impeaching past presidents? I don't like this precedent. I'm moving no, comma. Here's how terrible Donald Trump is, so you could put me on I wasn't voting against Donald Trump, and you get nothing. The next thing is,
Say that again, please.
So basically, again, in the end, all Republicans will come up. You'll have one or two like Mitt Romney, because he'll vote to impeach. But the majority of Republicans are going to go out. They're going to say, no, I'm not going to vote for impeachment because it's going to set up a precedence that you can remove presidents after they're gone. I know it's not accurate, but that's what they're going to say, followed by a 15-minute speech on how terrible Donald Trump is, which is a win for them because they can move. I mean, we have to move, the whole clutching my pearls on Donald Trump. And at the end of the day, they leave. He becomes a bigger martyr because he didn't get removed again.
Martyr. That's the first time that word came up tonight.
And that's what he's going to do, which, later on the show, we got to talk about these actual hardcore Trumpsters because let's not go there. The last portion on this is you will ask, well, what do we do? Luke is absolutely right. There has to be some kind of a punishment. And if the Democrats are smart, although I don't even know if you can get this deal anymore, is you need to make a deal with Mitch McConnell, although you don't need him. You just need maybe a couple of votes. Listen, let's get rid of the trial. No trial. We want a censure attached with he can't ever run again. We remove a whole 2 weeks of a ridiculous trial where we know how it will end because we're not stupid. But we get the same thing in one day, and Joe Biden can go, I like this. Why put the people through a whole thing, another 2 weeks? Let's go in and out. Let's not rehash our dirty laundry, and let's move on. I know people want a trial, but you don't need the trial. What you do need, last point, is you need a full investigation. The first thing that the AG needs to do is he needs to appoint a special counsel on this whole thing. You special counsel it. You allow that guy to roam free and start picking these people off that were insiders, which you can't do during a trial. You're not going to be able to do that. A special counsel will. He's going to go down to Georgia and he's going to start reading text messages, emails, financial documents of all of these Q people and what the hell they were doing. And that's how you fix this whole shebang. But a trial will not do it.
Well, I'm gonna roll over to Jeff and see if there's any. You've got connective tissue and all this stuff too.
I've updated my no list since the other way I say it sounds like I'm going to do violence. So I'll change. I'll make all the no. It's actually I call it Trumplican votes. Is the name of the spreadsheet, but 197 people voted nay on impeachment. 135 reps voted against the Electoral College and impeachment, and 89 of them also signed the amicus brief. So I'm taking down names. I'll make sure if they ever run for Senate that I'll be on their Twitter page to tell them what they did wrong right now.
Can you work that backwards historically from amicus brief till now and talk about the numbers reverse? The amicus brief was a first step into this threat of really going crazy.
Yeah,
right?
the amicus brief.
What is it? What is the amicus brief? Just a quick.
That's the thing they sent to the Supreme Court to look at election fraud.
Okay.
That was 106 people.
And that was striking. We were all amazed that there would be over 100 at that time.
Wait a second, that can't be right.
What's that? Late November, December? Probably December when that was happening.
Can you put up while he's looking? Can you put up Mr. Clean's? I think we 60-40 vote.
Oh yeah, yes. 106 total voted for the amicus. That's why it's 89 is a subset.
Come on. Of course, that's not going to happen. Come on. That's not going to happen.
I kind of agree. So I want to say a piece in here while we're doing this because that's why I want to work backwards. There are already Congress people from the Republican side who voted against the impeachment yesterday who are already realizing, I don't know what the IQ level is of some of these people, but they can't finish the chess game in their brain while they're playing it. Like it's not happening for them. And so today, some of them realize this important fact, which Ace, I think, does maybe potentially throw another layer into this that we're not thinking about right now. And that is the word evidence.
Yeah.
Having an impeachment allows there to be public evidence. And one of the things we have to see done, and my only fear about a special counsel is it's too much private and nobody trusts that process anymore. And so to have it be
trust the arrests, though.
They will trust the arrests.
That's what I want. I want a Mueller.
I want
1,000.
I want to see the evidence. I want to understand as a public knowledge the depths and craziness of this, because that's the only way to get the rats out of the ship.
Yeah.
And so that's why the impeachment with a Senate that's going to allow evidence, which the last time we had an impeachment, nobody got to see the gears of government work the way they're supposed to. But if we have evidence and testimony, and we watch old man Trump sitting on the bench, sweating like he's never sweat before, America will begin to heal in a way that it needs to heal. We need to see some truth hitting the fan, if you will. And I think that's why the impeachment, and I personally love the idea of waiting 100 days for the impeachment, because I think it marries the Republican Party to Trump much longer than they want to stay married to him. And I think it really puts a hurt on him. So that's Jeff.
It's 100 days of Trump to dig a deeper hole. And then when you get to the vote, to Zach's point, he's saying there's no way we'll get to 67. Well, if 100 days from now, Trump just continues to just make stinky stench all the time, what if they're smart, they'll do is they'll realize if they don't impeach him and keep him from running again, he'll keep beating this drum for 4 years and run for president again and drag them all back through it all again. So I think there's a lot of things that could, to Marty's point, especially as we get further from inauguration, which obviously I really think it's unlikely anything will happen before inauguration. I mean, I hear Ace's idea, but I think it's likely you'll be after inauguration. So, inauguration happens, everyone has legislative agendas, everything else, and they're still talking about Trump. I think tempers will start to flare personally. I think they're more likely to vote to impeach him. And obviously you can impeach after he's left. We're talking about the most recent president, and the impeachment started before he left. I mean, I understand the concept of being fearful of going way back, but how would that even work? Someone's going to bring up articles to impeach George Washington. That's obviously a nonsensical
argument. That's not the argument that they'll
We've never had a president.
So that George Washington isn't alive. So just want to
right. It would only be to take his name off the rolls or whatever. It'd be ridiculous. Whatever. Nobody would. I mean, I guess unless it was something truly astonishing. I mean, we had hard facts proof that he was an alien or something. I mean, I don't know what it would take.
So then he
wasn't born in the United States.
Let's deal with this one question first, which I think has to get out of the way, and we can all go around on it. How do we get clean then in your world? How do we touch the truth and begin to get to that honest, as I talked about the other night, repentance, how do we get to the ground zero and say, okay, we're at rock bottom. It's time to start fresh.
Well, we do what I was saying at the beginning. I mean, we have to have this. We have to close this ledger. And it's funny that the other side was talking about the reason why we shouldn't do this is because it will continue division. And the funny thing is that after this happened, and I sort of got this sinking feeling that this wouldn't go to the Senate and nothing would be done with it. I felt like the healing isn't going to happen until we close this ledger, until there is a reckoning. And the argument that's made by the other side is, at first it's, there's not enough time. And then once it's after the 20th, they'll say, but he's already left office. But let me I want to underscore this one point, because this is the point that you can hold. It's a flame that you can hold under all those senators next time you try to weasel out of it. I can't remember the quote exactly, but law students are taught when you can't attack the fact, when you don't have the facts on your side, you attack the law. When you don't have the law on your side, you attack the procedure. And you'll hear these people saying, well, we can't do it right now because the time, but he's already left office. Well, first of all, we've impeached people after they've left office who were judges and other things. But here's the biggest problem of all, and that's why you got to close it. The problem with saying that we can't do the impeachment in the last week and then saying you can't do it after is that then every president can go full Hitler the first week of January every 4 years.
Right.
To close that little loop, that it's the same with pardoning oneself. If you can pardon yourself, then just wait for the last 2 weeks of your presidency, kill a bunch of people, pardon yourself. They can't impeach you because there's not enough time. And healing, we got to move on, blah, blah, blah. So that's why it has to be closed. To answer your question, Marty, it has to be closed. That's we heal by closing, writing it off and going, this person did this bad thing, and because of that, he gets this punishment.
Okay.
And then you get to tell, and that's it. Go ahead, Jeff.
And what we learned from the Supreme Court from someone like Lindsey Graham is you can't trust that he will argue against impeaching in the last week this time, and then he'll try and impeach Joe Biden a month from the end. In other words, there's not going to be any, there's no gentleman's agreements anymore. Lindsey anything Graham will do whatever the hell he wants when he's in charge.
Yeah.
So I agree completely. There's no statute of limitations on this, and he made those actions while he was president, so clearly he can be impeached for them.
Of course, I completely agree with you on what you guys are saying as a whole, but I'm using past history, and I don't have to go that far. I go down on less than a year in the last impeachment where they didn't argue what he did either. They just argued past the law. Well, yeah, of course he did something, but they didn't. The Ukrainians didn't do it, so it didn't even count. Why are we? And it's just a phone call. They always are going to do this. You're opening up the book. They're going to take the easy road out because why wouldn't they? Because we need 17 votes. Out of those 17 votes, half of those people might be just too afraid to even make the vote because they don't want to be a Lindsey Graham walking around with these MAGA people trying to freaking kill them all the time. So you lose, I would say, half of those people. Then the rest of the half go, why do I need this on my thing when all I have to do is say no, then make a huge speech about how much I hate Donald Trump and everything he stands for. I wash my hands, I'm out. It's a win-win. Like it's just like why would they even want to impeach a Republican president? It's not we know what's going to happen. They've done
because 24 of those states are about to get re-gerrymandered. And in all of the states that have a Democratic legislature, and there's a few that are going to do some major map redrawing. Those guys are done, and they can't run for office and be full MAGA anymore. There's a lot of moving parts right now, and the problem with the conservative bubble folk and the MAGA folk is that they're in a bubble that is going to end, and they've not planned for it. And now we're seeing rage. We're seeing rage from Trump because he's a sociopath that has lost his voice box with Twitter and Facebook and others shutting him off. And if you do that to a person who is a narcissistic, sociopathic, any kind of it, let alone heavy, if you do that, you're going to blow them up. Take an 8-year-old, don't feed them for 2 meals, and then talk about fairness in life, and you'll see how easy it is to try to deal with a person like that. They'll be screaming and raising hell until they get some sugar. And that's what Trump is right now. Meanwhile, his base is feeling disempowered and scared and furious, and they don't know what their daily drip is dropping. They don't have all the same people online. Even in a week, you're starting to see people just like, what are we doing? And I don't know, man, the influencers are getting rolled up.
Yeah. As far as his base is concerned, I pity some of them because they were just simply lied to. But some of the ones that were a bit more, that leaned in a little bit more, I don't feel sorry for them because they committed an error that we're all very familiar with. Your team is gonna play against your best friend at the office's team in the NFL Super Bowl or whatever, and you don't want to talk it up too much because if you lose, everyone at the office is gonna make fun of you after. And for the last 4 years, they were talking about locking up Hillary, make the libs cry, Donald Trump will never win, MAGA 2020. Oh, shit, it didn't happen. And they're afraid that we are going to turn to them and go, oh, how about them tears? How about that? Oh, who's the loser now? Loser. They don't want that. They don't want to hear it. That's what they're really afraid of because they leaned in too goddamn hard for the last 4 years. Now, I'm not interested in doing that because I don't care, or we don't care. We care about the country.
Yep.
They're worried about those things. And I think that being angry is usually, go on YouTube and watch a guy get angry when his favorite team loses a game. He's like, God damn it, takes his hat off and he throws it. He's like, I can't believe that he fumbled right at the end and everything else. And that's what it's that rage, the rage. They spent they were amped up too much. They cranked them up too much, and all the senators and the representatives that perpetuated this lie and lied to those people, they wound them up into a drum.
Every single rally.
Every single rally. Yes. And so now when the promise didn't come through, like, man, I was so sure we were going to win that Super Bowl game. And we got destroyed at the end.
Ace.
And now they got to live with it.
So many ways. I kind of almost hate doing this, but rally. You said they were pumped up in the rally, but one thing we keep on forgetting is they weren't pumped out just at a rally. They were pumped up at a government-run rally. So the government was speaking to you. We forget that because though I don't quite feel bad about Trumpsters, but I do, in a way, I kind of do, because we forget that some of these people only get their information from one or two news sources that talks about nothing and just gives them propaganda. They only read the news that they trust, and they surround themselves by people that say the same stuff. And here we go. The government is saying the same stuff to them as well. And they go to a rally, and for us, it would be a rally. For them, this is a government talking to them up close and personal. So, well, at least Newsmax. But they're getting this information. And on top of that, these crazy, like Newsmax, they get the government. We look at Trump as Trump. Don't forget, it's the government. People we're supposed to listen to. Because right now, Joe Biden is going to start talking, and I can also just look at him, listen to him, and go, I'm not going to listen to him, but I am, because he's my president. For them, he was their president, and he was saying this stuff. He was going on Newsmax. He was making legitimate. He was going on Fox News during the crazier segments. He was making legitimate. They were going to his rallies. He was talking to them. He's the commander-in-chief, and he was pointing this up. And the commander-in-chief then told them to come on January 6th, and they did, because they're patriots, because they listened to the president, the commander-in-chief, not Trump, the commander-in-chief, and they go there and they listen to him. And they listen to what he says, and they listen to everybody that the commander-in-chief trusts for them to listen to, and they tell them, you need to fight this war for us, because no one else in there will. Go in there.
And they said those words.
They said those words. No one else is going to listen to you. This is it. We called you upon here to do this work for us.
Yeah.
What was the moniker? And trivia question: what was the moniker title at the top of the stage? Above the stage, there's a wall of words. Does anybody know what it was?
Voice is heard or something, or fight for you or something.
Stop the steal, probably. I don't know.
Nope.
What was this? What did it say?
The March to Save America.
Exactly. So basically, they had a war, and don't forget, Trump on his rallies declares this a war. He says that there was a war on Antifa. He declares this whole thing a war. The commander-in-chief. And these people in their head go, I'm listening to the president of the United States. I don't know what you fools are doing, but the president of the United States that has all the power, the executive branch, is telling me that there's a steal and I need to come and fight because no one else will. I'm going to do it. So we have an actual problem, because although you could say, well, that's your problem, you fell for it. But in their view is, this was not Joe Schmo. This was not some random cult leader. This was the president of the United States, followed by his assistants and other government figures, my House members, my Senate members. They were in and telling me to do this. I have emails. I have text messages from them telling me, come to January 6th. What else do you want me to do? You guys are the fools. You guys didn't listen to them. You guys are the ones that are not the patriots. You're treasonous. You're not following the president of the United States. This is a problem. Let's not forget about that. Last point is, when Joe Biden starts speaking, why should they should listen, because he's the new president of the United States. But if we don't listen to Joe Biden and we just go, he's not my president, then we're doing it again. That's the problem. That's what I tell the MAGA people is you have to, it's a problem because we said that guy is crazy. We're not going to follow him because he's a dictator, and we stop listening to him. But they can do the same thing, and it is a problem because when do you pick and choose who you listen to?
Yeah, if I could dovetail off what Ace said, the president ordered it. Obviously that was sort of the theme of part of what you were saying there, your next to last point. The challenge they have now too is that the president ordered it, but then he gave up. He gave two or three speeches in a row where he's saying, what happened was wrong, peaceful transition. He's still milly-mouthing it and messing it up. But the point is, they're realizing what I saw on a TikTok, which is, they fell for a con man. I mean, this is Trump Steaks. This is Trump Airlines. This is Trump University. This is 4 bankruptcies. This is 3 divorces. Well, 2 divorces, pending third. He has conned everyone in his life. And here he has conned MAGA into believing things. Another good example is Trump and all the editorial sources that all these Trumpers follow. See, they see the mainstream media. We all took mass media class. I took it in high school. And we know that media has bias, right? CNN has bias. Fox News has bias. We all understand that. But mainstream media has journalistic integrity. They print retractions. When they get it wrong, they print retractions. So because mainstream media is so bad, because, CNN's so far left and everyone's left, right? So now we have to go off the grid. Well, when you go to QAnon or somebody's blog or someone's vlog or whatever, those people have no journalistic integrity. They have no responsibility to tell the truth. They can say whatever they want. Alex Jones, a great example. Apparently the government's turning frogs gay, for example. And by the way, Alex Jones and Hannity have had to admit that they're a caricature of information, that they're satire. So these people that admit to being a satire source of information are the main source of information for these people. And so when you start arguing with the maggot about, for example, can January 6th, can they reverse the Electoral College? A maggot says, yeah, because some editorial source that they trust has said it's possible, even though I believe everyone agreed post-mortem that there was no possibility Mike Pence could have done anything. All they could have done was object to like every single state and just drug it out for 4 or 5 days. But that wouldn't have gotten rid of it. And even then, the legislature would have started abbreviating the rules and saying, we're going to deliberate for 20 minutes. We're not going to do this on every single state. So what I was saying earlier today is what they've done is they've completely eroded expert knowledge. And so now it's just everyone has opinion and they're all equally valid. And you hear it in Trump speaking from day one that used to drive me crazy. I'm sure it drove all you crazy. Global warming. Well, some people feel that way, but it's the China hoax. Well, then all the Trumpers just, it's a China hoax. And unfortunately, the one we're going to have to deal with for a very long time, I fear, is they're all anti-vax. They're all COVID deniers. I can't say they're all anti-vax, but they're definitely all COVID deniers. So how do you turn around, let's say 50 million people that are diehard enough MAGA that they doubt that COVID's even real while everyone around them's dying? And this is going to continue. Even if you make MAGA a bad word, these people have these as internal beliefs. And how do you turn around somebody whose source of information is some essay written by a person that's just intentionally misleading data to create a good-looking essay that says masks don't work, for example? Unfortunately, it's just going to be a bottomless well of these people that have resorted to only editorial sources. And of course, the beauty of editorial sources is I can write an editorial source. I mean, it's just one person's opinion. It doesn't have to stand up to logic at all. So it's like news opium. It's like freebie, right? You just get excited by it. And sometimes I listen to stuff like that. The Daily Show, some of those people, that's it, Stephen Colbert. Some editorial sources are a blast. But we don't consider Stephen Colbert a news source. He's an editorial person.
Well, and here we are all on this medium. And I think for a lot of us, I've used the word informnivore before, where we are constantly searching for the next thing to read about, think about, know about. Oh, I didn't know that was going on. That's cultural. We've kind of given up on both sides, left, right, center. We've kind of given up secondary sources because they're boring. It's a lot more fun to go find a primary source of a bunch of people who are having an open conversation, sometimes in a healthy fashion, like we're trying to do. A lot of times it's the dark black hole of the soul, man. It's some of these scopes where people are pro MAGA are some dark, dark places with guys that are sitting in their room for a long time and they're scary and they'll wave their guns in the thing. And I mean, So, and this is only going to get more so. I was watching I'm reading some stuff about compression in video and audio, and within a couple of years, we won't need YouTube anymore to do the housing of the compression. We'll all be able to do it on our phones or on our computers, and so we won't even need a secondary platform with the way compression is going to happen as it's continuing to unfold. So primary sources, secondary sources, this is America Heals. And I want to remind everybody, every show that we do, now that we have a democratic government that's going to be in place, we all need to learn and be reminded of the fairness doctrine. We need to lobby our congresspeople, we need to lobby our senators, and we need to lobby our president to reinstate the fairness doctrine. When the fairness doctrine was gotten rid of was when Fox News came on, and to snub the nose of what used to be the fairness doctrine, where you had to have ethics and you had to have editorial credibility and you had to have sources. That's when Fox News came in and said, Fox News, fair and balanced. And that catchphrase was purposeful in the victory that Rupert Murdoch was able to throw over in the Telecommunications Act while Bill Clinton was the president. And so we have to pull back in this country to an integrity factor where if you're on the TV, if you're on our airwaves that we own as citizens, that's long since been proven in court that we own those things. That's why there's a Telecommunications Act every so often. We need to be lobbying. We need to be educating ourselves about the fairness doctrine, because to stop Fox News is to stop the blood that is tainting or the poison that's tainting the blood of everybody who watches it. It's psychological manipulation. It is not news. And then you go down the road of OAN and Newsmax, and then, the bloggers who fit into that motif and are all seen together. It becomes a legitimized thing. It shouldn't be legitimized. It doesn't have a friggin' leg to stand on. And so, sorry for the sermon on the fairness doctrine. You'll hear it again.
I mean, I've never actually heard of the fairness doctrine. That we should definitely revisit and look into it, what it's actually called. Is it part of the FCC?
It is. It's part of the FCC regulated groups.
Yeah. And by the way, you know who gutted the FCC? Donald Trump. Do you know what he did to it? He basically realized the FCC cannot do any acts.
Blue Strat, you're right. You are correct. It's for cable. FCC regulated stuff, but not cable. But guess what? To get credentials in the White House, you have to be an accredited news agency. And if the fairness doctrine allows, you can't just be Jim Bob's News and get credentials in the White House. So you won't be taken seriously as a news source without the credentials. That's critical. Sorry, guys.
But I'm sure you can also, by the way, you can also rewrite the fairness doctrine and add in that, maybe if you say you're a news show and you're not a news show and you're like a caricature, which is what Sean Hannity is, that he has to say that.
And when some of those things were written, they were written back when people could still basically, we didn't have the psychological analysis that we do now. And people could kind of say, well, advertising doesn't really do anything. It doesn't work. We know that advertising works profoundly.
Yeah. And, Stephen Colbert, he doesn't have to tell you that he is a comedian and this is a comedy show. And a lot of the stuff that he says it's twisted, it's for comedy, but it's obvious because he's not under a platform of a new show. And I think if you have a new show and you're going to be Sean Hannity, you have to say that, just like the Washington Post, they have an opinion section, but it says this is an opinion. So you can have a little bit more of a wide range if you want to. Even in those, you can't go super far. But maybe you add into that doctrine and you say, hey, if you're going to say you're a news show, you have to say that this is the opinion piece of your news show. And you have to remind your people that, hey, this is just opinion. This is my opinion with sources, but it's my opinion. It's not a news show. And maybe that also helps out.
Like almost have to put like an editorial bar. When you start editorializing, they have to add a bar, because Don Lemon's one of my favorite guys to watch. But, he gets frustrated and he starts venting and he starts editorializing.
And this works for CNN and MSNBC too. When I watch my news, I want to know, is this the news or is this an opinion piece?
Right.
Now, I can tell when someone is giving, like Don Lemon, if I'm listening to him, I can tell when it's his opinion piece and when he's telling me the news. But I'm watching, 5 different types, and I can understand that. When you're watching just Newsmax and all of it is an opinion piece, all of it, there's no real news, or like 90% of it, then you start kind of falling into these things. And then those people that come on to their shows, they're the Alex Joneses, they're the other podcasters, the other media. They come in and they watch that, because if you look at some of these people that were there January 6th, it's a very weird majority. Don't forget, there's also a QAnon portion. I don't think QAnon people watch Newsmax or Fox News. So they're the Alex Joneses and the podcasters of the world. That they're the other media that
they're all primary source. Yeah.
Weird media that they have.
Oh, yeah. And QAnon would be flattered to be called a tertiary news source.
Yeah.
I mean, they are literally like tea leaves and rolling dice, and you're talking about, some of their ideas are, you're talking about Canaanites, the Eye of Ra, pedophiles. You're talking sex cults. You're talking well beyond the realm of rational thought.
Luke, you're far too quiet over there. I feel like you've got something
I have
to
a
say.
funny anecdote to about the QAnon stuff that happened over the last week. When Donald Trump was banned from Twitter, Twitter also did another thing. They went out and they decided to pull out anything to do with QAnon, anything to do with fake stuff and all that kind of thing, and just pull it from Twitter. And I don't know if you recall, a lot of notable people like Devin Nunes started complaining, I've lost all these followers and all this stuff. What they didn't realize is it's because all the QAnon accounts are getting canceled too. So each and every person that came out and complained about losing people, they were outing themselves and showing that that's because you're followed by a bunch of QAnon people who take your words and use it as garbage. Good job. You just outed yourself. You'll notice that other notable Republicans didn't have that problem because they're not a source of QAnon garbage. Well, they outed themselves. Good job.
Just a quick little thing. I was watching the lawyer for the guy with the horns.
Let's
the QAnon shaman guy.
The Q shaman, yeah.
The Q shaman. And I love law. I love when good lawyers come on there, because I love when lawyers come on, because you could see what's a good lawyer and what's not a good lawyer. That guy was fantastic, and he made a very good argument. In fact, part of his argument was Donald Trump should pardon this QAnon person, this shaman guy, because this shaman guy listened to Donald Trump as a patriot and as his commander-in-chief. He followed all of his forms, his tweets. He went to his rallies, and he went to everywhere. And interestingly enough, the guy says, why should this guy even be arrested or charged? He didn't cause any crime in his head. He didn't hit people. He was walking by himself, and the doors were open for him. People were walking behind him, and no one was doing any violence. The violence happened around him. He was not part of it. He said,
although, by the way, he was holding a freaking spear.
But it had an American
doesn't
flag.
look great.
It had an American flag. It makes it okay. I don't know.
But
it was a spear.
It was a spear, but it had an American flag.
Here I am walking around in the Capitol building with a spear, minding my own business. Okay.
I think we've all talked about it.
To go there as a citizen and a patriot, he did. And he said, in fact, the doors, there are pictures where cops hold doors while this guy is walking through. So he says, the president of the United States told me to do it. I'm walking peacefully, and the police officers are holding the door open for me to walk through. Now, the other last portion on this is, interesting enough, he said that he's already getting a ton of other calls. They can do a class action on this and say they're part of a cult. And he even admitted that, listen, this is not much different than a cult. I don't remember the guy in California that told everybody to drink the Kool-Aid and they died. He said
Jim
the only
Jones.
difference is,
Jim Jones.
yeah,
That's not a it's not a defense.
there's no
though.
Kool-Aid here, but the
Yeah.
biggest difference is the guy at the head is the government. So why shouldn't this guy be charged?
Being in a cult isn't a defense. It may have
It's
sounded
not really-
colorful on
The
TV.
government is telling you, and they're in charge. Who am I to listen to? I'm sure, and I don't. I need to go. I need to. Luke, you might know the history, but I wonder what happened during the Germany, and when their government was telling them to do something, they were getting government orders. What is the law there?
So
It's
when the Nuremberg trials happened, that was the defense that was used over and over. I was following orders from my government, and it didn't
It's
work.
not a defense. Though.
Anymore.
It didn't work at all.
It's called an illegal order. If your captain tells you to shoot this villager mother with the baby in the head, and you do it, it's not enough to just say, "Well, he told me to do it."
Right.
But
That's been proven in court.
But
Many
that's
times.
hurting people. But I don't know. This guy's defense is I didn't hurt anybody. I just walked through.
I
He
would
didn't just walk through though. But anyway,
argue, first of all, is, as I said before, the chief executive ordered me to do it. Does seem like a pretty plausible defense, at least as a start. What I would say is if all these guys will testify they did it because of Donald Trump,
It's awesome.
then it turns into a RICO thing. Like, I was in a gang, our leader was Donald Trump. So if it'll help hang Donald Trump higher, and then you give, metaphorically, everyone take a deep breath. If it'll get Donald Trump in more trouble, I can see throwing the Q shaman a bone on his sentencing or whatever, pleading it off of a felony and only giving him 5 years in jail or something. I mean, we can work things out if it's part of a bigger thing. It's not just let Q shaman go and let Donald Trump go. I mean, in other words, if I can trade one for the other, I'll trade 300 Q shamans for a felony charge on Donald Trump.
Well, I also think we're going to have to wait for about 10 more days. What are we, 6 days from inauguration, about 10, 12 or so more days before we really see the mass arrests and we see the real charges, because I was watching a couple of shows today and they were talking about how easy it is to prove criminal conspiracy to overthrow the government with the conversations that they have with these people. And it's any two people who agree to do anything to take over the government or to take any property or belongings from the government, it's a 20-year minimum.
Yeah.
And so
they're clearly working their way down the list. And I agree with you. They're going to wait till Trump's out to get.
Before you do that,
I think they're going to bump the charges on everyone that we already know about, and they're going to go round up a bunch of more people.
there's going to be
and they're all going to start talking just like Ali.
Yeah. If they're smart, they do it maybe they do it the 16th, where you get them all rounded up before the 17th. Get them all charged, but it's too close for maybe pardons or something. I don't know. Don't release their names or something.
Can you throw up Blue Strat 91's comment from 1052?
Yes.
Donald Trump can't pardon him. Otherwise, Trump admits he incited. And that's why those lawyers pretty much made sure that poor guy, he's never going to get anything for Donald Trump. Because he's quite right. If were he to do that, Donald Trump would be admitting that he did something wrong. So the last thing Donald Trump needs to do is mention anything. He doesn't want to connect himself with that at all.
He admitted that it would never happen and it would be bad. But he said, listen, it is wrong for Donald Trump not to pardon this guy because Donald Trump told this guy to show up and he did his patriotic duty and he listened to the president of the United States and he showed up and you left him hanging. And of course, because the lawyer is actually a genius, I wouldn't be surprised.
I don't think he's a genius.
I think it's a genius move because we don't know I don't know where this shaman guy lives.
Arizona.
If he lives part of a whole bunch of QAnon people and you have a whole bunch of people in that and they're all Trumpsters and he's like, I listened to Donald Trump, I showed up, I didn't hit anybody, look, there's videos, I'm walking, the cops are holding the door for me and they have a whole bunch of sap stories
they didn't hold the door for him. There's pictures of him before he entered the building and he knows very well that he entered the building when the building was not open for people to enter. It's a weak defense. It's a terrible defense, and he looks terrible.
He can win this. I don't know why he.
No, he can't be. Let me just remind you: being in a cult is not an excuse for crimes.
It's not a cult. It's run by the government. Who says that it's a cult? It's run by the government. How do you say this is a cult? Not a random guy. This guy's with authority.
for the same reason that it wasn't a good defense in the Nuremberg trials. For
But
the
this
same
hasn't
reason
hurt
that
anybody.
for the same reason that when you're in the FLDS and you can't just say I was in the FLDS, I decided to marry a 9-year-old. It's okay. It's never okay. It's just
And-
like the same reason that a captain can't tell you to shoot a defenseless person in the head. You can't do it. I don't care. I don't care.
Ace,
No judge is gonna hear it.
you're missing two things too, Ace. Just because you're part of a mob and you don't personally commit violence or you don't personally assault anyone, I would argue the Q shaman is about this much responsible for Ashley getting shot in the head. He was part of a crowd chanting, "Let's get in there. Let's go do it. Let's go do it." She's the tip of the spear and she gets shot in the head because a guy like the Q shaman was yelling, "Let's do this. Let's go." Also, I don't believe they're all going to get charged with assault or property damage or whatever. There are crimes involved with just walking through the Capitol without permission. You can't go right now to the Capitol after hours and kick in a window and start walking down the hall without committing a major crime. And not knowing crossing a police line and then crossing through a smashed up doors against the law is foolish. So I do agree that I like the concept of saying, look, Donald Trump told him to. And by the way, we all agree Donald Trump told him to. I don't think that really holds up in court. I mean, Donald Trump told you to what? Walk over the broken glass, and and the biggest mistake he made is he decided to dress up like some sort of
He's a shaman.
what am I trying to think of? Mascot. He decided to make a mascot of the whole thing.
He said he's a practicing shaman, and last time, if that is his religion,
So am I.
he's a practicing shaman. He could probably bring people that he has.
Marty's a shaman.
Yeah, I mean he's practicing. So, and I would still argue that it's still the government, and on top of that,
the government. It doesn't matter that it's the government. I want you to embrace it, hug it, hold it. If the government tells you to put people in an oven, it won't be okay. It won't be okay. Trust me.
The United States is there.
Don't. If a cop tells you to shoot someone, don't shoot them. It won't be okay. It won't be okay.
Let's make one last point.
Yeah.
One last point. Part of his other defense is going to be that, listen, yeah, you're going to say, well, you're part of a mob and so and so and so and so. And he's going to turn around and say, well, what about the rioters that were burning down? They were in front of a police station and the police station was being burnt down. What about all those people around while that police station was being burnt down? Did you arrest every single person that was there and charge them the same? And the answer is going to be no. We have to be fair on both sides.
No, but
that's
not how.
Hold on. I know where we're going to go before I get killed. I know that one is started based on reality of African American people getting killed and shot.
No, I'm not even talking about that. I'm just telling you that. What about it doesn't work in court?
This is started on fake stuff. But he's going to argue, but still, the president of the United States told me this, and you didn't do this with the Black Lives Matter.
What about ism doesn't hold up in court, and no lawyer makes that a defense?
They use precedents. They use precedent.
Defense. Let me just finish.
For charging.
That's not how. That's
any Black Lives Matter person.
If they were that's not even how precedent works.
Being part of a peaceful protest, and use
precedent
right there. It's the same thing. I don't see if
I murder someone, I can't just say he murdered someone too. It's not a defense
that you can
use in court.
He was part of a crowd that murdered
the Black Lives Matter. Did they arrest?
I just
around the police station. Did they arrest everybody that was around the?
It's a police station.
Ace, can you let me answer? Can you let me answer that, please, Ace?
Go ahead.
Okay, so when you say, well, what about the Black Lives Matter? That's literally what about ism, and what about ism? What that means is you can't murder someone and say, okay, but my neighbor murdered someone last week. It doesn't matter. What matters is the state of the situation that you are in and why you're being brought to court, not what happened in another place. So you can't just say, well, they didn't get in trouble, so I don't have to get in trouble. That's not what precedent means. What precedent means is that there was a ruling about something, and I'm going to draw from that ruling in a future case. So you're confusing what precedent actually means. It doesn't mean what you think it means. Precedent doesn't mean they did a thing, so I can do it too. Precedent means is a judge has ruled in the past, that being part of a mob means that you aren't solely responsible for everything, and you can use that as precedent. That wouldn't be whataboutism. But you can't go to a court and say, oh, there was a BLM thing and they smashed up stuff and they didn't get arrested, so I shouldn't get in trouble too. Doesn't matter.
Well, and we're getting caught into the conversation where as we do this, our scope is going into this, and it's going to happen. And so I'm lifting this up, that what we need to remember is let's pull back to a 10,000 foot view, and let's remember what we saw that day. We saw a president gathering people for 2 to 3 weeks of a lot of hype for some sort of an event that was going to happen that day. People bought tickets. People started GoFundMe accounts. People found rides. Clarence Thomas's wife paid for 70 buses to go around this country and bring people in to this rally. And
Marty, have you seen the lady with a bullhorn giving people directions?
She was probably going to be, she's probably going to end up being one of the ones who they say was being shown around by Congress people the day before.
There's a picture of her. She was with that QAnon person, by the way.
Yes. And so, but that's a little bit later, right? We're still at the rally, and the rally is a frenzy. It's meant to build them up into a frenzy. I watched Trump's speech. I watched Rudy's speech. I watched Junior's speech. There was nothing but nonsensical anger to try to do one thing, and that was to scare the shit out of Congress, who was about to go, and Mike Pence, who was about to go do the government's business.
Yep.
And they rah-rahed him up and lied to him and said, I'll go with you, because he's a fat liar. And then he went home and sat in his couch and ate bonbons while he watched this shit go down, and denied the National Guard at least 6 times, says Larry Hogan, a Republican governor, the Maryland governor, that he was involved in that. So they march over there. There's conflicts at the beginning of the gate where a lot of cops just got their butts kicked, and then some cops might have let some people in because they were completely overwhelmed, or maybe they were part of it. We'll find that out too. But then they get up to the building, and they kind of pause, and they kind of gather, and then it becomes this just. I mean, the mob, we all saw it. We see these videos every day. It's just people completely out of their minds. And so now as we parse it out and try to find, oh, well, that guy didn't do this much. They should have put a boundary around the whole thing and not let one person go home without talking to the FBI agents, but they didn't. And we need to understand why they didn't. I guarantee right now that if we got into a bus and we drove up to Yellowstone National Park and we went to Old Faithful and we started kicking Old Faithful in, they would very quickly find enough people to put us in prison like that for ruining American property. This is the heart of our democracy. This is like the holiest of holies in our process, in our country. It's more important than the presidency. It's our house. It's the first... The first article of the Constitution is about Congress, because we are a democracy where we vote our people in. And yes, we're a republic. Yes. But the rhetoric before it was also, we're not a democracy. That's a critical piece of this, that we can somehow threaten the shit out of our people, our elected representatives, to just force them to do what we want. There's so much arrogance, so much of a false identity, of an understanding what we are as citizens from these people. They truly believe that they can, this is my capital. How could I get in trouble for stealing what's mine? I pay taxes. This is my podium. That's what they were saying. So but it's essentially, it's a bank robbery that Trump was driving the car and telling them what to do. And then while they went in and did the bank robbery, he slipped out and got ice cream. And he wants to distance himself from the idea of the bank robbery. And then the rest of them are all going to somehow get in trouble. Some less, some more. Fuck it. Roll them up.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree. I was just, working both sides. The question is,
sorry, I get it.
I think the good news here, I'll start with this. The good news is that your average citizen, I still believe that out of the 72 million, a huge portion of those people just voted because they don't vote Democrat, or they listened to just enough news and they went, you guys are commies. I don't know about these guys. And they didn't really believe and buy into this. Hey, by the way, Republicans, you have a major white supremacy terrorist nutbag job going on, because they don't listen to the news enough. They're out there, they're hustling, they're doing their thing. And I think the good news is, as I've been talking about this, it's all about the numbers. I think what this is going to do is it's going to chop off a huge section off the top. Huge section. Now we're going to have to find out how big of that section is. Is that 30, 40 million people? I don't know, but a huge section. This is the other thing that I've talked about with QAnon and some of these other things, is you need to attack quickly and chop off a huge section. The shaman guy, you might lose the shaman guy because he's a shaman and he might fall for it and he might go underground and still keep on doing it. What you need to get off is this woman that got shot, and she's a veteran. Like she really shouldn't be part of a QAnon conspiracy. And the way you do it is you just label the QAnon people, that QAnon group, a terrorist organization. Why wouldn't you? It is. Label it a terrorist organization, and then your random Becky or Becca or some woman, girl, whatever, they don't even touch it, because to them, that's a terrorist organization. I need to be as far away as possible.
Luke, is that how we close the book on this thing? Language is part of it. Language.
I still think that the way to close this is with leadership from the GOP. They're the ones with the power and the ability to finally cross this off the ledger and close it out. Everything you guys were talking about before with respect to the media, and when you were talking about, these people that editorialize all the time, it's created this set of WWE news. And when your guy comes in the ring, you cheer. When the other guy comes in the ring, you boo, and you're not even using this part, the brain, the gray matter in your head. And this GOP leadership. And I have a little show and tell tonight just to break things up. It's awesome. One of my proudest possessions, actually.
Can I give you full screen for this for a second?
Yeah, why not? Sure.
Excellent. Give you the show, man. Here we go.
So it's not a huge deal, but it's one of my prized possessions. It's this book right here. This, if you ever watch politics, and I've heard this phrase bandied about a lot in the last week or so, even on the House floor. It's a book. It's called Profiles in Courage, and this is a prized possession because this is a first edition. You may recognize the author. It's Senator John F. Kennedy. So this was actually written, obviously, before Kennedy became president in the 60s. It was written in 1956. It's a short biography, and it describes acts of bravery and integrity by 8 United States senators, it profiles those senators, and it's defined by the opinions of them that were against the party and the constituents to do what they felt was right, and they suffered severe criticism and losses in popularity because of their actions. So they basically went against, they just went on what was most important at the time, even though it went against their party, even though it went against a lot of things that it would be easier just to say, oh no, Donald Trump's fine. They went against that, and they paid for it with their seats and everything else. And that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for these guys to do the right thing, to be part of Profiles in Courage. Okay, put the country first. Put the country ahead of your party. Put the country ahead of everything else that you do. Just think about in 100 years' time, when they look back on this moment and they call upon this time in our history, and they say, oh, well, what happened that time? Well, there was a guy called Donald Trump, and he sent a mob, and they raided the Capitol building. And what did you do? We did nothing. And so your name is up there with Jefferson Davis and George Wallace. You don't want to be part of that. You want to be part of having done something, not just for the long game, but for the long game, for the for the longevity of the United States of America. That's what I think we need. That's what we need to finally like wrap this up.
Well,
Until that
let's
happens,
switch gears.
we'll be in
Let's
a
switch
pickle.
gears into, we wanted to talk about tonight, we wanted to talk about the Republicans. And so I think that segues very well into this. Let's do a piece of positivity. Jeff, I cut you off. I asked you to go from amicus brief to the larger number, but
Yes.
we can do that again. But is there a chance that the 10 representatives who stood up could grow into more as we go forward? I guess that's, leading back into the development of the Republican numbers here,
The 10 Republican senators that supported objections.
Yeah.
There's that. This is mostly House members, because you have the 106 that signed the Americus brief, 121 supported the objection to the Arizona EC Electoral College, 138 supported the objection to the Pennsylvania Electoral College, and it ends up being 147 total objected to Electoral College, one or the other. So ironically, there's a fair number of people that did one but not the other. So anyway, it's 147 total reps that voted to support.
And it's a different issue, but it's now 197 who voted against impeachment.
197 voted against impeachment. So there's a total of 135 that voted against Electoral College one time or the other and impeachment. And of that 135, 89 of them also signed that amicus brief. So there's sort of an 89 real bad list. There's 135 pretty bad list. And we're hearing, calls for Liz Cheney to resign, but I think America Heals has to take a second and recognize, and this is hard for me to say. This is hard for me to say about the offspring of a man who I believe at the time was one of the more evil politicians to ever inhabit the office of vice president. But when Liz Cheney stood up, it was one of the most patriotic moments that I've seen in a decade or more, or maybe a longer time than that. And it was precisely because of the profile and courage, Luke, because she knew she was going to get beat up. I still think she's going to be the nominee in 24, but we could talk about that. I think that, man, that was something that we need to applaud and we need to celebrate.
Yeah. I mean, the Liz Cheney thing, sometimes we have to kind of pull back and go, what's right is right. I mean, yep. She said the right thing, and she also said the right thing while knowing that the number one and number two will not support her, will not do the same thing. So she knows that she's the third one, and then behind her, there's also another 180 something people that are her colleagues that she's going to have to work with that don't agree with her. Or 197 of them. That's really what courage is. I mean, that's impressive courage. It's hard to be. I mean, imagine she's essentially
she's going to get death threats and everything.
I mean, it's impressive. I love it. I like that. I've been tweeting out our mug that I made. It's
can I show that?
Go ahead. It's the first merch that I made. This is a mug with Liz Cheney's quote on it.
I can't wait to drink coffee from it.
And we are going. I have some coming in. Of course, we're not sponsored, so I'm just we're just buying this. And we're going to hand it out to some people. I love this because this is something we should remember. It's a perfect quote.
If I could add to Liz Cheney, just briefly, I'm sure you guys have more to say. I looked through my naughty list, and sometimes you get like a Mitt Romney, and he says the right thing one day, and then the next day he says the wrong thing, and he says the right thing, he says the wrong thing, and you get it. He's not a Democrat. You're not going to agree with everything he says. But Liz Cheney also voted correctly on all this. She voted nay on all the objections and yay on the impeachment. So you're talking about someone who's backing up their words with their actions. Sometimes, Lindsey anything Graham will say a lot of things and he'll do a lot of other things that don't seem congruous. But she backed up her actions. She did not sign the amicus brief. She voted nay on both EC objections and she voted yay on impeachment. So
you could say she's playing ball.
She's playing ball. She's putting her actions behind her words.
And just a quick thing on the good news is this is why this is going to be a problem for the Republicans. Now they can't whip their votes. They don't have majority, and we don't really need their votes either. This is the problem. So now what you're going to be left with is you're going to be left with 3 sections of government. You're going to have the Democrat, which I hope will come in order as one, right? Then you're going to have the Liz Cheneys, the Mitt Romneys, the Lee Murkowskis, the Collinses, and a couple of more people. Let's say another 20, right? Middle. And then you'll have maybe say even a bigger majority, 30. But the problem is this 30 will just be ostracized. We don't need your vote anymore. So basically the 20 Republicans, they're geniuses because they get what they want. When they decide what to do, part of this Joe Biden's thing, which is $1.9 trillion, that's a big amount of numbers. Guess what states are going to be getting that money? That money is coming in. And to be part of that 30 that gets ostracized, those states get nothing. So, hey, Mitch McConnell, or hey, Alabama, you guys went against the thing. Well, when we decide what infrastructure we do, we decide maybe Alabama doesn't get that much money for a new infrastructure. Maybe it all goes into Georgia. They're all going to be playing politics with this money, and the bigger majority is now going to be all of the Democrats and the 10 to 20 Republicans that are going to work with the Democrats to get what they want, and the 30 gets left out. Bye.
And I don't want to go down this road again forever, but I want to say, and the 30 will be affixed to the evidence that we see come out in the impeachment trial, which will become, and it will be packaged somehow. PR people are very, very smart. We will end up having a name and a thought for this. Right now, we're still in the shaker until Joe is in, and we're all every day waking up going, oh my God, what did Trump do today? Until that's over and the process begins, we're still living in this thing. But eventually it's going to become a name. It's going to become a thing. It's the siege on the Capitol. It's, whatever we want to call it. And
insurrection.
The insurrection, or stronger, because the more evidence we see, and if we find out that there were actually, and I think there were probably, from what I'm hearing, Congress people involved, this is going to be a lot bigger of a problem for those 30 or those 190.
Brand it correctly, by the way. You better throw a MAGA into that branding as well.
Yeah. The MAGA coup. There you go. The MAGA coup.
The MAGA terrorist plot, the MAGA insurrection. You better brand this to get that, keep on peeling slices off that crowd. People going, whoa, I'm not part of this shit show. Fuck this. I don't need.
Well, and so then you get that 30 or that 197 in Congress, and they're, like you've already said, they're going to be on an island. It's going to be far worse.
Yeah. You guys know what MAGA stands for now. My ass got arrested. I'd like to mention, I think you're getting ready to cue up Pence's speech. Biden's speech. But another profile of courage I wanted to bring up, because we mentioned Jonestown, is Jackie Spear. She went with Leo Ryan to Jonestown as a staffer. She was shot 5 times next to a plane. They tried to hide behind the wheels or what. A plane is not bulletproof in any way, a private plane. And she waited on the ground after 5 gunshot wounds for 22 hours. So if you think you're going to shake Jackie Spear with buffalo horns walking down the hallway, you got a long ways to go.
Just to cap it off before we move into the Biden thing, Marty.
Yeah.
America heals with profiles in courage. That's how.
Love it, dude.
Woo.
I guess Jackie represents Zach, so that's great.
I'm going to write that down. Because it's literally the practice of making it work, right? Yeah. And it's going to happen at all levels of government, and it's going to happen in families.
It has a religious element to it, Marty. It takes some grace. You got to give a little.
Yep.
It's going to suck. You may have liked Donald Trump. You thought he was going to put forward initiatives that you were going to be proud of, but he let you down, and that hurts. And he let down America, and you don't want to feel that you were supporting a man that did the wrong thing. But that's why you got to have profiles in courage, and that's how America is going to heal. America's not going to heal by sweeping it under the rug like the Republic. These people like Jim Jordan want to do. That's not how America heals.
Yep.
And it takes courage, and it hurts like hell. But that's what you need to mend something as atrocious as what just happened.
Yeah, this threat that doing impeachment is going to somehow cause people to be more angry, I don't agree. I think it'll piss some people off, but they're already at full red rage anyway. So what do?
I hope Matt Gaetz and Jim Jordan get primaried so hard by somebody who's just like, we have to return to Republican values.
Amen.
And Jim Jordan and Matt Gaetz were Trumpers. They've sold everything he had to sell. They pushed his agendas in congressional hearings. They got to go and just get those guys out of there. Bring back some traditional people with some ethics. And, I've said over and over and over, I have no problems with the Republican Party. Historically, I don't agree with them, but I've had no problem with the concept of the Republican Party. But that's just it. Trump is not the Republican Party. It's crazy. MAGA now is, you're either a Trumper or a rhino. It's like, you don't even understand what you're talking about. Trump has no political agenda really, or compass, and the rest of the party's trying to hold the thing together.
Yeah.
You're right, Jeff. That's why Mitch has got to do the right thing.
Yeah.
They're trying to take over the party. It's all
they know. Yeah, it's time to grab the field. The monster got off the leash. It's time to just cut the leash, shoot the monster in the head, and get back to what you were doing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Don't forget Ted Cruz.
Yeah.
Ted Cruz and Holly and all these clowns.
That's another profile in courage, Ted.
Roger Marshall. Don't forget Roger Marshall either. Josh
It wouldn't be
Hawley,
a show without remembering him.
Cindy Hyde Smith, Josh Hawley, Roger Marshall, Ted Cruz, Tommy Tuberville, John Kennedy, Cynthia Loomis, and Rick Scott all fought the Electoral College. They all tried to take our votes away, the American people.
So we began the show tonight with impeachment and the Republicans and where we are now. And I think Nate actually drops this question in. How can you mend a broken heart? And I think that the part of the broken heart of the shattering of norms and the savagery of what happened in the Capitol is, we've dealt with it. It's going to continue on. We're all watching history as we go through this.
Yeah.
Thank you for your input on all of this, you guys. And the comments have been amazing tonight too.
Yes.
There's another way we heal, and that is to kick ass and to go on offense. And so tonight, if you weren't able to see it, Joe Biden gave a speech tonight. But before I go down that road, I just found out tonight. We found out tonight, at least I was watching the news, that Joe Biden's transition team was unable to get the statistics and be able to get the current updates of the plan for COVID-19 vaccine until 6 days ago. And so while they've been in transition, they haven't known what's going on. And of course, what we're sort of trickling out while all of this other news is happening is that it's a complete shit show. They haven't been paying for the vaccines. They haven't put a plan together to get them to the states. It's as bad as you can imagine it would be. And so for 6 days, Joe and his team have been unpacking this mess. Tomorrow, Joe is going to do a different speech on the vaccine plan, because essentially we've been living without one. We've probably all realized that in our various states, but it's going to be official tomorrow as Joe sort of lays out where we are and what's going to occur. It's an aggressive plan. Part of paying for that plan comes in the package that he discussed tonight, which is a $1.9 or $2 trillion plan that is going to, it's as progressive of a first move, I believe, that we can have. Should we watch this video or talk about it?
Break with watching the video.
Okay.
I have a copy of Trump's COVID vaccine plan. It says vax at the top, VAX, and point number one is military. So you're caught up.
I did say the military was going to be involved.
We could watch it. I guess maybe I'd feel, because we're moving in on time.
Oh, maybe just stop and go.
We could stop and go, but I guess I'm just going to give a brief update of it. If we can play with the video for a second too, but I want to talk about the things that he said, because they're incredibly important. 100 million vaccine shots in the first 100 days. That's 50 million people. There's money to ramp up production because there hasn't been any. Actually, I'll shut up.
They were talking about drive-through vaccines. They're talking about baseball stadiums. There's a lot of ways to get big volumes of people shot with a relatively small crew.
Ace, can you make that full screen on your end?
Yeah.
Cool. And then I'll leave us off to the side for this thing, but yeah, there you go.
Yeah, leave the ASL.
Good evening, my fellow Americans.
Is that echoing for you guys?
In 40
Okay.
days,
Okay.
the virus that has ravaged our nation tragically claimed its first life. On February the 6th in 2020, Patricia Dowd took her last breath at home under the California sun in Santa Clara. She was 57 years old, a beloved wife, mother, daughter, sister. She never knew she had the virus at the time when most folks never heard about the virus. But just like that, she was gone. And almost exactly 1 year later, nearly 400,000 of our fellow Americans have met the same cruel fate. Countless families and friends left behind with unrelenting grief and guilt, anger and frustration. And the emptiness felt by the loss of life is compounded by the loss of our way of life. During this pandemic, millions of Americans, through no fault of their own, have lost the dignity and respect that comes with a job and a paycheck. Millions of Americans never thought they'd be out of work. Many of them never even envisioned the idea, are facing eviction, waiting for hours in their cars to feed their families as they drive up to a food bank. Millions have kept their jobs, but have seen their hours and paychecks reduced, barely hanging on as well. That's happening today in the United States of America. Just as in the midst of the dark winter of this pandemic, as cases, hospitalizations, and deaths spike at record levels, there is real pain overwhelming the real economy. One where people rely on paychecks, not their investments, to pay for their bills and their meals and their children's needs. You won't see this pain if your scorecard is how things are going on Wall Street. But you will see it very clearly if you examine what the twin crises of a pandemic and this sinking economy have laid bare. The growing divide between those few people at the very top who are doing quite well in this economy and the rest of America. Just since this pandemic began, the wealth of the top 1% of the nation has grown roughly $1.5 trillion since the end of last year, 4 times the amount for the entire bottom 50% of American wage earners. Some 18 million Americans are still relying on unemployment insurance. Some 400,000 small businesses have permanently closed their doors. And it's not hard to see that we're in the middle of the once in several generations economic crisis with a once in several generations public health crisis. The crisis of deep human suffering is in plain sight. There's no time to waste. We have to act, and we have to act now. This is what economists are telling us. More importantly, it's what the values we hold dear in our hearts as Americans are telling us. A growing chorus of top economists agree that the moment of crisis, in this moment of crisis, with interest rates at historic lows, we cannot afford inaction. It's not just that smart fiscal investments, including deficit spending, are more urgent than ever. It's that the return on these investments in jobs, racial equity, will prevent long-term economic damage, and the benefits will far surpass the cost. A growing number of top economists has shown even our debt situation will be more stable, not less stable, if we seize this moment with vision and purpose. And so tonight, I'd like to talk to you about our way forward, a two-step plan of rescue and recovery.
I just wanted to pause it before. So what do you think? Do we need to go over anything before it goes into the steps? No, I can't hear you. You're muted.
Oh, you're muted.
He muted himself. He unmuted me and muted himself.
He just laid it out. He laid out the preface, and here we go. Here comes a lot of meat and potatoes.
This is where it's going to get into it.
Yep.
I mean, look at the difference.
Yep.
I mean, this is the. I think
This is presidential.
Start seeing this, they go, "Whoa!
Yep.
This guy's going to really get down to the brass tacks." Here we go.
And so, for my progressive friends, listen up, because this is not bad news for y'all.
A two-step plan to build a bridge to the other side of the crisis we face to a better, stronger, more secure America. Tonight, I'll lay out my first step, the American Rescue Plan, that will tackle the pandemic and get direct financial assistance and relief to Americans who need it the most. Next month, my first appearance before a joint session of Congress, I will lay out my Build Back Better recovery plan. It'll make historic investments in infrastructure, that Build Back Better plan. Infrastructure, manufacturing, innovation, research and development, and clean energy. Investments in a caregiving economy and skills and training needed by our workers to be able to compete and win in the global economy of the coming years. Moody's, an independent Wall Street firm, said my approach will create more than 18 million good-paying jobs. Our rescue and recovery plan is a path forward with both seriousness of purpose and a clear plan, with transparency and accountability, with a call for unity that is equally necessary. And unity is not some pie-in-the-sky dream. It's a practical step to getting the things we have to get done as a country get done together. As I said when it passed in December, the bipartisan COVID-19 relief package was a very important first step. And I'm grateful for the Democrats, Republicans, and independent members of Congress who came together to get it done. But I said at the time, it's just a down payment. We need more action, more bipartisanship. And we need to move quickly. We need to move fast. Our rescue plan starts aggressively in order to speed up our national COVID-19 response. The vaccines offer so much hope. And we're grateful to the scientists and researchers and everyone who participated in the clinical trials. We're also grateful for the rigorous review and testing that has led to millions of people around the world already being vaccinated safely. But the vaccine rollout in the United States has been a dismal failure thus far. Tomorrow, I will lay out our vaccination plan to correct course and meet our goal of 100 million shots at the end of my first 100 days as president. This will be one of the most challenging operational efforts we have ever undertaken as a nation. We'll have to move heaven and earth to get more people vaccinated, to create more places for them to get vaccinated, to mobilize more medical teams to get shots in people's arms, to increase vaccine supply, and to get it out the door as fast as possible. We'll also do everything we can to keep our educators and students safe, to safely reopen a majority of our K-8 schools by the end of the first 100 days. We can do this if we give the school districts, the schools themselves, the communities, the states, the clear guidance they need, as well as the resources they need that they can't afford right now because of the economic dilemma they're in. That means more testing and transportation, additional cleaning and sanitizing services in those schools, protective equipment and ventilation systems in those schools. We need to make sure that workers who have COVID-19 symptoms are quarantined And those who need to take care of their family members with COVID-19 symptoms should be able to stay home from work and still get paid. This will reduce the spread of the virus and make sure workers get the support they need to maintain their families. But we need about $400 billion in funding from Congress to make all of what I just said happen. It's a great deal, but I'm convinced we're ready to get this done. The very health of our nation is at stake. Our rescue plan also includes immediate relief to Americans hardest hit and most in need. We will finish the job of getting a total of $2,000 in cash relief to people who need it the most. The $600 already appropriated is simply not enough. You just have to choose between paying rent and putting food on the table. Even for those who've kept their jobs, these checks are really important. You see, if you're an American worker making $40,000 a year with less than $400 in savings, maybe you've lost hours, or maybe you're doing fewer shifts, driving a truck or caring for the kids or the elderly. You're out there putting your life on the line to work during this pandemic and worried every week that you get sick, lose your job, or worse. $2,000 is going to go a long way to ease that pain. We'll also provide more peace of mind for struggling families by extending unemployment insurance beyond the end of March for millions of workers. That means that 18 million Americans currently relying on unemployment benefits, while they look for work, can count on these checks continuing to be there. Plus, there will be a $400 per week supplement so people can make ends meet. This gets money quickly into the pockets of millions of Americans who will spend it immediately on food and rent and other basic needs. As the economists tell us, that helps the whole economy grow. We'll also tackle the growing hunger crisis in America. As I speak, and the Vice President-elect has spoken to this many times, 1 in 7 households in America, more than 1 in 5 Black and Latino households in America, report they don't have enough food to eat. This includes 30 million adults and as many as 12 million children. It's wrong. It's tragic. It's unnecessary. It's unacceptable. So we're going to extend emergency nutritional assistance for 43 million children and their families enrolled in the SNAP program through the rest of this year. We'll help hard-hit restaurants prepare meals for the hungry.
You're muted.
Mute.
He's going to talk about restaurants being part of this thing. Hell yes. You want to know why we're having riots in the streets and riots in the Capitol? If 1 out of 7 households in America doesn't have enough food.
Yeah.
And also the industry itself employs, it's a huge, huge industry by the numbers.
Yep.
And
he's going to talk about using restaurants to get involved, this is comprehensive. I don't need to say anything else. I just wanted to pause that and be like, we were told by Pence and Trump back in March that there would never be a food shortage, and that has been a friggin' lie for a lot of people. 43 million families are going to get back on SNAP. As a pastor, I deal with people who use food stamps and deal with food issues. It's a huge issue, and it's something that people like Matt Gaetz and Jim Jordan and others, they berate those people who don't have enough. They try to hurt them, and then they go back to their base and celebrate hurting those people. Thank God for Joe Biden and for progressive politics that lean into caring for people. That's all. I'm done. Be quiet.
I'll pause it when we get to Plan 2.
Provide food for the families who need it. We will invest $3 billion in making sure mothers and their young children have the nutrition they need. This will not only meet our moral obligation we have to one another, but will also spur our economic growth, get restaurants and workers back on the job. And as we work to keep people from going hungry, we'll also work to keep a roof over their heads, to stem the growing housing crisis and evictions that are looming. Approximately 14 million Americans are falling behind on rent. many at risk of eviction. If we don't act now, there'll be a wave of evictions and foreclosures in the coming months as the pandemic rages on. This would overwhelm emergency shelters, increase COVID-19 infections as people have nowhere to go and can't socially distance. Next week, we'll take action to extend nationwide restrictions on evictions and foreclosures. This will provide more than 25 million Americans greater stability instead of living on the edge every single month. And I'm asking Congress to do its part by funding rental assistance for 14 million hard-hit families and tenants. It will also be a bridge to economic recovery for countless mom and pop landlords. These crises are straining the budgets of states and cities and tribal communities that are forced to consider layoff and service restrictions of the most needed workers. It means that people putting their lives at risk are the very people now at risk of losing their jobs. Police officers, firefighters, all first responders, nurses, educators. You know, over the last year alone, over 600,000 educators have lost their jobs in our cities and towns. Our rescue plan will provide emergency funding to keep these essential workers on the job and maintain essential services. It will ensure that vaccines are administered and schools can reopen. Vice President-elect Harris and I have been speaking with county officials, mayors, governors of both parties on a regular basis. We're ready to work with them, help them get the relief they need. Our rescue plan will also help small businesses that are the engines of our economic growth, our economy as a whole, the glue that holds communities together as well. But they're hurting badly. And you realize they account for nearly half of the entire total U.S. workforce. Our rescue plan will provide flexible grants to help those hardest hit small businesses survive the pandemic, and a low-cost capital that will help entrepreneurs of all backgrounds create and maintain jobs, plus provide the essential goods and services that communities depend upon. Last week, I laid out how we'll make sure that our emergency small business relief is distributed swiftly and equitably, unlike the first time around. We're going to focus on small businesses on Main Street. We'll focus on minority-owned small businesses, women-owned small businesses, and finally having equal access to the resources we need to reopen and to rebuild. And we will be responsible with taxpayers' dollars, ensuring accountability that reduces waste and fraud and abuse like we did in the Recovery Act that I did in our administration. Direct cash payments, extended unemployment insurance, rent relief, food assistance, keeping essential frontline workers on the job, aid to small businesses. These are the key elements to the American Rescue Plan that would lift 12 million Americans out of poverty and cut child poverty in half. That's 5 million children lifted out of poverty if we move. Our plan will reduce poverty in the Black community by 1/3, reduce poverty in the Hispanic community by almost 40%. It includes much more, like an increase in the minimum wage to at least $15 an hour. People tell me that's going to be hard to pass. Florida just passed it. As divided as that state is, they just passed it. The rest of the country is ready to move as well. It should be a national minimum wage of $15 an hour. No one working 40 hours a week should live below the poverty line. That's what it means. If you work for less than $15 an hour and work 40 hours a week, you're living in poverty. It includes access to affordable childcare that will enable parents, particularly women, to get back to work. I look forward to working with members of Congress, both parties, to move quickly to get the American Rescue Plan to the American people. Then we can move with equal urgency and bipartisanship to my Build Back Better recovery plan that I will call for next month to generate even more economic growth. American manufacturing was the arsenal of democracy in World War II.
you can shut it off. The Build Back Better plan is more. He's just going to talk at the end of this about how he's going to buy only American goods, and he's going to utilize his authority to that Trump never did. What
Trump said he did, but never did.
Right, but he's gonna use, what is that called? What I'm missing it right now. The
Defense for Production Act.
Yeah, thank you. And he's gonna employ that, and he's gonna utilize this as 100% American companies as part of this package. So we can kind of probably kick it at the end here. But thank you for watching it. Thank you for taking it in. This is actualization of the conversations that we were having, through this whole primary season into the election. And this is the first nut. It's obviously not the entire nut of his presidency, but it's a big bite, I believe, coming in. And I think he took the mantle of the media. The last thing I'll say, I think he took the mantle of the media, the news cycle with this, and I think he's going to hold on to it, even though there's lots of stuff with the impeachment and lots of other things going on. He is now acting as our president.
Yeah. And, this is kind of what I've been telling some of my, MAGA Republican friends, or who, I don't even know anymore. It's hard to put them all together. But this whole thing where they've been sold this weird reality that the person you just heard is somehow the worst human being in the world. That's the problem. And I keep on telling them that, can we wait until see what he does? Because I can guarantee you the first act he does, he's not going to stop a whole bunch of Muslims from coming in or put children in cages, things like that. Let's not forget what this government did first and what this guy's going to do first. And I think it's a great plan. I know I do ask that we really need to make sure as our party, we cannot peel away 5-10 votes off because you're not getting everything that you wanted perfectly. You're not getting, I already saw some people and you knew I was going to call you out. You're not going to get.
I'm going to call them out too. Don't worry.
The full $2,000. Oh, it's not a full $2,000. Yes, it is full $2,000. But what it is he's saying, listen, we can't, what you're asking for is not $2,000. You're actually asking for $2,600. If you're already getting $600, you're in need. And then you get another $1,400. That didn't happen last time. It was an either or thing. Now, if the most in need will get $2,000. The ones above that will get $1,400, and on and on and on. It's to give the most amount of money to the people that need it. Those that don't agree with it, what you're really asking and what you're really upset about is, why isn't it $2,600? That's a different argument, but it is $2,000. Please do not fall into the trap that the Republicans are going to set up and going, Joe Biden never gave what happened to that $2,000. You're falling in their trap, and then it's not true. We have to speak factually. It is $2,000. It's just going to the right people. Don't fall into the Republican trap of not saying it's not $2,000, because that will happen.
Yeah, I mean, what can I say? Bernie Sanders, eat your heart out. He should be very happy. I imagine he is. And I imagine Ace is happy because, after all, it's called the American Rescue Plan, not the Rescue Deal or whatever. I thought you'd be happy about that. It's called the American Rescue Plan. You can't be against the American Rescue Plan. But in it, he outlines, his goal is to create 18 million jobs. I'm sure people will be like, oh, well, I'll see when it happens. But Moody's is the one that he references being the people that told him that 18 million jobs could be wrought from this. He's got 100. He wants to accomplish 100 million shots in 100 days. Like you said, $2,000 cash relief for those in greatest need. Right. He wants to address poverty, reduce it by 40%. He like Marty said, with the SNAP program, addressing 30 million adults and 12 million children who don't get enough food on a regular basis. He's got something for the homeless. He's got something for people who are worried about evictions, 25 million Americans. He has something for rental assistance for 14 million Americans, 600,000 educators who have lost their jobs. He's got something lined up for them. And as he mentioned, this should make conservatives happy. Half the U.S. workforce is made up of small businesses, so he wants to put out there some low-cost capital for emergency small business relief instead of what happened last time, where money went to the Lakers and Joel Osteen and all these other guys who didn't need it.
That's
So
right.
whether every single thing happens, we will have to see. Obviously, it's going to go through a process in the Congress. But the point is the way he has decided to take the mantle of leadership and go do something instead of what we've been doing since February, which is essentially just sitting on our hands and really just letting this wave come over us and get completely trounced and destroyed, and allowing kids to not get fed, allowing people to bite their nails, wondering if they're going to get their mortgages paid on time, allowing people to suffer. It's dreadful that it's taken this much time for these issues to be addressed properly. So at the very least, I mean, I can't imagine why anyone from the far left to the far right or whoever could have a problem with what seems like an extremely reasonable plan that will hopefully get the country rocking and rolling again. I love it.
I do too.
mean, it's
I'd like to say something to a few of my friends here on the chat. It was not. I do not believe that. Okay, first of all, we know this. If it wasn't for the Democratic Party, we wouldn't have gotten a $600 check. If it wasn't for the lobbying of Democrats over a barrel, finally forcing it, we wouldn't have got a $600 check. And then Trump, of course, played it out saying, it should be $2,000. He was already beginning to knife some of those in his party with that. And then when Warnock and Ossoff were in Georgia campaigning, and Joe went with them and campaigned it being a full $2,000, it was never advertised as $2,600. It was advertised as, we'll give you the whole $2,000 if we get in. So I think while you might be thinking Joe is being disingenuous, I think maybe this comment is a bit disingenuous because there was never a conversation around $2,600.
never.
There was never a conversation around 6 plus 2.
Just because you're not getting 2,000.
So I understand that it's rhetorically nimble, but it's $2,000 per adult person, and it's not enough. I think we should, if we were talking seriously, it'd be $2,000 a month or $1,400 a month for the next year for everybody, just so that we could make sure our economy would chug along. That would be responsible.
Bernie and 2 other senators put that in May. Got shot down hard. $2,000 per American every month. Got shot down hard.
Mr. Clean, Zach, I love you, dude, but there was never a conversation about $2,600. Right back at your $1,400. It was understood that those of us on the left were going to celebrate the fact that it was going to be the full egg of $2,000. For those on the right, they packaged it that way to keep it simple because some of those folks have a hard time with facts.
And some people didn't get the $600 check. That the check. You can only get it if you make X amount of money.
Yeah, the qualifying went down.
What Biden is doing is saying people will get $2,000 checks. I'm just putting an extra little. It's not everybody $75,000 down will get $2,000. It's, hey, you don't have a job, you're more in need, you get $2,000. Everybody that has a job gets $1,400. It's still $2,000.
We're going to have to disagree on this, Elena.
Yeah, let's just move on.
I really love you, but I got to say, I don't
Let's
think
move on. Whatever it is,
about the same.
it's $1,400 more than people have now. So whatever.
Don't fall for it. He's going to get this done, and we need to celebrate this as the people in need gets $2,000.
The people in need. That's what's important.
You're going to keep on saying, "Oh, it's $1,400," which is a loss for Joe Biden somehow, even though it's not.
Okay.
So beyond that,
we'll wrap the gavel. Case closed.
Thank you, Jeff. Well, it may not be closed, but at least we've all said our piece.
As far as we're concerned, that equals $2,000. Click. You guys can disagree. It's fine. We're not going to go back over it.
And again, this is the first run. This is getting our states bailed out at some level. It is making sure that we don't lose our nurses and our cops and our firefighters who will be cut if there's no money for them. It's that simple in cities and states.
Yeah.
It is fine to disagree. That's part of what being in America, we love that about this place, is that we can throw down, disagree, and walk away, and not have to be fascists where everybody agrees on everything. Isn't that great?
The commercial way to say it would be put a pin in it. We're just going to put a pin in that. We've said our piece. You guys disagree. We could talk all night about one topic. For now, pin in it. We say $2,000. You say 1,400. Next.
We'll put a little. Jeff will put a little pin behind him.
I've got a post-it I put on this wall. You can't see.
At the end of the day, I'm not going to lose any sleep knowing that someone who's poor will get $2,000.
Right.
That makes me very happy.
Yep.
And also, at the end of the day, I'm also going to know that this $1.9 trillion isn't going to be stolen like the last
Exactly.
$1 trillion that we still don't know.
We still don't know what happened to that.
They never released where the PPP loans went. We're going to find out.
We'll
They
find
only
out.
released. It got leaked. We're going to find out where over $900 billion went.
Yep.
And we're going to go, holy crap. It went to Fortune 500 companies. It went, they were maxed it out and they were still open and doing great.
Yeah.
It was stolen.
Mm-hmm.
It was.
Because
It was stolen.
the PPP thing, you didn't have to prove that you had to close. So basically, any company can go and say, "Oh, well, due to COVID, we're going to close unless we get more money." Then they got all the money. They maxed out at $19 million, and then they used it to pay their people while getting the same amount of business or more.
Right. Or being excess of their entire annual payroll, or figures that made no sense.
Exactly.
My wife's company used it for exactly what it's intended for, and it worked out great. But I think probably the majority did that, but there's going to be this minority that makes up a huge sum of money that really abused it, or vice versa. I guess a minority that made up a majority of the money. Either way, it needs to be fully looked into, obviously, and those companies to be called out to give it back. I mean, quite frankly, there were rules to getting that money and being able to keep it without paying it back. And if they didn't follow those rules, then they need to pay it back.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully, we'll get it back, and hopefully, we'll find out who got it.
And truthfully, those companies, if they're smart, they don't care about paying it back. They got $19 million they didn't use for payroll. They held it for 6 months, then they pay it back. Everyone knows time value money. You're ahead. You held $19 million for 6 months. They made $1 million off of it in that time.
Well, and I think that was the first piece that Joe lifted up in this speech is interest rates are as low as they're ever going to get right now. So to do this package, to borrow money right now at the rates we have it's very wise, because we need to jumpstart our economy.
Good for you, Nate.
Yeah.
By the way, I don't want to hear it from the Rand Pauls out there that this would increase the deficit and we can't afford it and blah, 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 when they passed a $1 trillion tax cut for the wealthiest Americans. This country's hurting right now. You heard all the statistics, the numbers of the 12 million children who don't get a square meal every day and everything else. Okay, we can afford it. We can do this. It's what needs to be done. It's going to get our economy rolling again. This isn't about communism. This isn't Marxism. This is about helping this country through this crisis and moving forwards. When we weren't in crisis, we passed $1 trillion tax cut, and we didn't hear a damn thing from the Rand Pauls out there.
That's
so
right.
I don't want to hear it. We're gonna help people that need help for a change, and I'm not losing any sleep over doing that.
And get our country off the mat. We're on the mat right now. We've been knocked down, and we've got to get up. And the only way to get up is to take care of COVID first, is to get our country back in, so we can even be on the field, to use two sports analogies in one sentence.
And there's a new COVID number that just came out. The prediction: we are trending to losing 1.2 million people in the end of COVID. 1.2 million. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of healing. And also, let's not forget that every single person that has someone that dies, there's about 7 to 10 people that it touches personally. And when you lose family members that you couldn't talk to, they suffered. A lot of families don't get any. They don't
visitation.
No visitations. When they die, sometimes don't get their bodies.
Yep.
They don't get funerals. It's a real sad fact, and the fact that we're so still anti-COVID is ridiculous. I like numbers. This 1 million. Finally, we have a government that makes a goal they can actually hit, because they are going to, by the calculations, they are going to destroy the 1 million vaccines. They're going to probably do 130, 140 million vaccines. But they didn't go out just like the Trump thing where he goes out, Mexico pays for it, and then gives us nothing. They said, we're going to say 100 million. It sounds great. We know we can hit it. It's a great, ambitious thing. When we hit it, we're going to do more. We're going to overdo our promise. Not like this ridiculousness that we were part of, where we would get these goals that would never be hit. They were ridiculous. China will pay for it. Is China paying for anything, really?
No, the tariffs were a waste of time, and all it did was hurt normal Americans.
We pay tariffs.
I work in IT. All of my equipment is up 15 to 20%. All of it. I'm paying for it. Yeah. My company's paying for it. China's not paying for it. They just added the tariffs onto the equipment that we buy.
Yeah, my wife's in-laws, they work in farming equipment, and the tariffs nailed him so hard.
Yep.
He was one of the people in Georgia, actually, who didn't vote for Donald Trump and then voted Republican down the ticket. He'd had enough because the tariffs personally destroyed him financially. The cost of those tariffs, you really think the Chinese were going to be like, oh, okay, we'll pay? They pushed that onto the American consumer. That's what happened. And so we ended up paying for it.
Anyway, and to add 30 to 50% tariffs or whatever it ended up being with taxes and shit, nobody's buying those tractors right now. I don't know if that's what they sell, but
yeah.
I grew up in Iowa, and I know how much a combine and a tractor are, and it's more than your house.
Yeah.
Can we take some questions?
Totally.
We've left them out.
We've left them out. What do we want to lift up?
Can you do a different view? Is there a different view that you could do so it doesn't block us? It doesn't.
I don't think so. I
Okay.
don't think
That's
so.
fine.
Just click it and it pops over there.
Okay. What happens if you
I'll hide behind the comments.
if you share this
There we go.
and then do that?
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, that only kills me. Thanks.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Jeff was the last in tonight, so that must be what happens.
I didn't see the stupid. Twitter doesn't scroll your comments when
No, it
new
doesn't.
comments come in.
All right, so let's get some questions from the floor. Who else?
Okay.
Any questions out there that need to come up here before?
While we're waiting, you could read this. We did this last time, and I'm going to expand this list. This is my way of when I hear Republicans or MAGA people always yell at Democrats for being terrible. This, and I've already used this multiple times on people, no response. I send them this list and I say, you keep on saying it's the Democrats that are the part of your problems. We do not run this country.
All right, guys, let's run this sucker. And it's true. It's all Republicans on there. Leave that up while we do this because we're getting some questions. Let's roll.
Here we go.
Let's rock and roll with these, okay? Let's not take too long. So we'll start with Shucksy. Shucksy says, Trump wanted $2,000 checks. He didn't get it with the GOP Senate. What makes you think 1,400 will pass?
Dem Senate.
Democratic Senate, yeah.
Next.
Are you worried that impeachment will take away from Biden's first 100 days?
A little.
I mean, it is what it is. As long as he passes this thing and he stays out of it, I think it is what it is. You can't.
Well, Biden, being a goddamn leader, said, hey, don't worry. Just do what you got to do. I can handle everything.
Mm-hmm.
So he's taking ownership. He's ready to rock. If they guys nominees, they do. If they don't, whatever. He's seems to be very interested in just getting work done.
All right. This is a comment from Jim. Biden needs to be careful. It needs to stay center. And then he says impeachment must happen. No choice.
I mean, I agree.
I don't know. I mean, he's also sweeping some left folks. So that $15 an hour minimum wage is a talking point of Bernie from word
and Elizabeth Warren, and I think it's a great thing. Yeah.
And we still haven't heard his full progressive plan,
right?
Which would be his Build Back Better, something. BBBR.
Yep.
So that he's moving good.
Why did Comey suggest Biden pardon Trump?
Comey's one of those figures, like I was saying about Mitt Romney. You know, one minute he says something you love, the next minute he says something you don't. You know, he said that they were going after, what was his name, Boehner's laptop right before the election last time because they had more Hillary information, and then, you know, blah blah blah, Trump lied. I mean, I think the truth is we want these people to be like on our team or the other team, and I think some people like Comey are just trying to somehow go down the middle. So, you know, I think, you know, I mean, I don't know. I mean, the point is, who's what? Comey is a perfect example of like a basketball ref. You know, one game you hate him, the next game you like him. It's all about which call he made recently. You know.
Yeah.
Although
Ace and I talked about this. You got it, Ace.
I don't know if I want to talk about it, but I can make an argument why pardoning Trump could work. But everybody on here would just
we get upset.
It could work. I mean, you would have to have a really good deal with Trump. It has to be a deal. If you want to quickly heal this country and kind of get a little bit back to order, you have to have a deal where Trump goes on TV like a whole bunch of times, says the election was real. He goes to the inauguration. He continues going with the whole, no, we looked into it. It wasn't rigged. And he just completely denounces it. It would be worth the pardon to quickly fix a section of people, get them right back.
And he wouldn't be allowed to hold office again.
And he can't hold office. Yeah. It's an argument to be made. I can see
it will definitely be something that keeps coming up for a while until we know when the trial is and all of that. I want to bump to America's Man says, what about increasing cancer research? Wasn't that Biden's original motivation to run? Later on in that speech, he does, and we didn't listen to all of the end, he talks about the research of the money that's going to go into universities and research as well. And I think that there's another element of that in his second plan, but the cancer piece is not forgotten for sure.
Oh, yeah. As much as that man loves Beau Biden and his legacy, believe me, in the next 4 years, and my mother is a cancer survivor, he will be doing something major with respect to cancer. It's one of the things he wants as part of his legacy of his presidency.
And some of the good.
I got one more. Sorry, go ahead, Ace. Sorry, I've got one more.
We've invested so much money into COVID. All of that will go into cancer research as well because they bought equipment and all of this. I mean, they put them a lot of money, of government money, into fixing one problem where you can use it to fix another, just like these vaccines are mRNA. mRNA has been researched to use for cancer research as well.
Yep. Do you think the cable media is going to go back to what it was? And I don't know what that was actually, but it's a fair question. Or is it still going to be politics 24/7? I'll even add to this question. Is it going to be breaking news all the time? Go.
I think this is one of the biggest differences that we're going to see in the next couple of months, where you're not going to hear from Biden at all. There's not going to be any tweets. I can already feel it. The fact that Trump is not on Twitter, this whole attitude cools down.
Yeah.
That's going to be helpful.
Jeff?
You know, CNN was designed, right, to be 24-hour news and real-time news, by the way. You know, network news was always nightly. So you got CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, they're doing real-time live news. And I don't see that their biases are going to change dramatically. But yes, I think we're obviously going to get away from, can you believe, it's going to be back to the sort of the mundane version of politics. Joe Biden said $15 an hour minimum wage. Does that apply even in a state like Wyoming that has an extremely cheap cost of living? You know, how are they going to balance it across? You know, it's going to be actual like political discussions more than like, can you believe, you know, Kid Rock wore a cowboy hat in the White House last night? Which, no, I can't, by the way.
Yeah. Either way, trying to wrap your head around the idea of trying to make sure that people who are disenfranchised, people who are starving, people who are trying to figure out if they will have shelter tomorrow, that is just, to me, is a loftier and more important thing to try to resolve than worrying about paying for a wall when, you know, the number of immigrants that are crossing the border since 2009 has constantly continued to go down. And it doesn't really do much for the United States of America. This is going to help American people, Americans.
You know what I felt when we were watching the first part of the Biden speech, and it gets a little long, and, you know, Joe has his way of talking, but as he was describing it, he was openly discussing the wound that he was trying to solve the problem of, rather than lying and saying there wasn't a wound there or diverting us to a different topic. He's actually letting pain guide the way. And if and Luke, you're familiar with healing people. If someone has a cut on their arm, one of the first things you try to do is get the dirt out of it, right? You go in and it might be more painful right away, but that's how the healing is eventually going to occur, is if it's actually the wound is prepared to heal. And I think it's such a different approach than just simply grandiose distraction and lies.
Yeah.
What else we got?
What else we got? We got comments. We do have a question. Here's one. I haven't even read it yet. Kelly, where are you at? Here we go. Did Biden have a plan, an effective plan to protect senior citizens in nursing homes? I did not hear that in this.
I did not hear
Well, he's trying to do 100 million shots in 100 days, and he's putting people who are most in need of those shots, which frontline workers, the elderly, and people who are immunocompromised. They're obviously at the front of that list. So I think it kind of includes them. I mean, he can't answer every time. Are we going to go to Mars before the Chinese? I mean, we could keep listing stuff, but I mean, we have a pandemic in our faces right this second, and you got to do what you got to do first. I work in emergency medicine. The first thing I care about is, do we have access to the airway? Do we have breathing? Do we have circulation? I'll worry about your cut toe afterwards.
Right.
But I mean, I'm sure that, I mean, here in Georgia, and Georgia is rock bottom. They're actually, getting the vaccine to nursing homes before everybody else. So,
and it is part of his distribution plan for his vaccines, which I'm assuming might come out tomorrow. He's going to be talking about vaccines tomorrow.
Vaccine is tomorrow.
The nursing homes and elderly care is going to be on top.
Yes, tomorrow is actually the plan. So by tomorrow night, we'll probably be looking at some document online that says, "Oh my God, here's how it's actually going to go now."
And the nursing homes, unlike everything else, are the easier ones because it's a huge community of only old people. You show up. I'll tell you, when we got hit hard in Georgia, the Coast Guard. No, the National Guard just showed up at a community and tested everybody. They tested like 2,000 people in under an hour. That's what they're going to do.
Great question. We're going to give this 30 seconds. Joe Manchin. What are your thoughts on Joe Manchin and his newfound power? Will he be a problem?
Of course he's going to be definitely a problem for you. Definitely the more for you than maybe me. Because those of you that don't know Joe Manchin, let's be honest, is a Republican. That's a Democrat. That's just true. On the scale of where he is, Lisa Murkowski and Susan Collins are more left than Joe Manchin is. So he is going to be a problem because you're going to need his vote. The good news is we also have a whole bunch of people on the Republican side that are way more left than Joe Manchin is. So he can't go super right because we'll just get a Republican vote instead. You only need one. So if he decides to go no to 1,400, we'll get Lisa Murkowski's vote instead. So Joe Manchin is going to be a problem, but not a nail in the coffin.
How often does he caucus with the Democrats? Does he tend to vote with the Democrats?
He's a Democrat.
He's a Democrat, but he is. I'll pull it up.
I mean, I understand that ideologically he might be more right, but I mean, as long as he votes with the Democrats, what do we care?
But he is a pain in the butt because
historically he's been a guy who really cripples the reach of legislation.
So if you pull this up, this is. I'll zoom in.
Yep.
I'm sure he'll just horse trade.
This is Joe Manchin.
Yes. Yeah, he's a horse trader for sure.
And notice right here, this is the problem for Joe Manchin, is these two people, Lisa Murkowski and Susan Collins, they're more left. So if he goes super right, we'll just get one of their votes, which makes him less of a problem. We also have this person. I don't know who she is, but she's more right than Joe Manchin is.
Cinema.
Yeah. So, but the problem for Joe Manchin is these two people right here. and the both of them support.
Ace, while you have that up, could you do me a favor? Could you go farther to the left and show me where Kamala Harris and Bernie Sanders are on that chart?
So Bernie is off the charts.
He's
not
there.
on the-
No,
He's not on the chart.
Yeah, he's on the chart, but
they
he's off.
extended the charge for him.
He won't fit on this chart.
Okay.
Okay.
have
But
to
then
go to Bernie
where's
Sanders.
Harris? She's down. Nope, she's to the left.
She's one of the
bottom
three on the
left.
Oh yeah. No. Harris is like right here somewhere.
She's one of the last three, I think.
No,
Yeah.
she's literally the closest to Bernie.
Yeah.
And
And
so
so
when my California friends who have a lot of problems with Harris, and I understand those, and I understand a lot of why, for especially the progressive wing of our party, she should be highly celebrated, guys.
Yeah. Super. And Joe Biden is right here. If he was here, this is where he's actually up here because he has high leadership. Up is leadership score. Left and right is where you vote.
And go on. You got it, Ace.
Joe Biden, when you pull him up, he's not on here because he's not in Congress or Senate, but he's right here. He's right in the center of the Democratic Party, not the center of both. He's not a true. This person is like perfectly center, but Joe Biden is center of the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
Harris is left of the Democratic Party. Bernie Sanders is not in the Democratic Party. Joe Manchin is essentially a Republican that's a Democrat. But again, these two people make Joe Manchin less of a problem because they both want checks. And if Joe Manchin is a no, Lisa Murkowski will be a yes, and we don't need Joe Manchin.
All right, party people.
That's the good news.
This has been a rager. Let's lose it. We've done our questions. We've covered some ground tonight.
Quick predictions.
We'll get to predictions. Before we get to predictions, Jeff, can you walk us through some of the stuff we ended up talking about tonight? Bit of a wrap up.
Did you take notes?
I just threw it at him. His mic is off. He was just chilling.
Yeah, well, I laughed. All I did was laugh. I probably swore a couple times. They're lucky my mic's off. I was like, what the heck? No one told me my job was tracking the agenda.
No, it's not. I just
Like a teacher that called the guy to sleep. That's what happened.
I think we covered a lot of really good topics. I think we kept moving forward. I think I don't have the full wrap up. Obviously, Biden's speech. We talked about the Q shaman entirely too long. The idea. I would quote Howard Zinn. By the way, he had a famous quote of "You can't stand still on a moving train." So I would say for Q shaman, he was on a train that was nefarious, and therefore he can't claim he was a victim. He was on the train and he knew where the train was going. But we went through mob mentality more or less. Personally, Jackie Spear being a badass. Cops moving fences. By the way, I think cops moving fences. Personally, I think they're looking at 300 people all the way back, and they're saying we're coming over this effing fence.
Yep.
And they had the choice of letting people climb over the fence and break their faces on the concrete or get out of the way. I mean, I don't think they were trying to help people. I think they were just trying to say, you know what, this crowd's going to push over this fence in a second anyway. Now, did they yell out, FYI, this is illegal trespass, I'm going to open the gate, but you're all trusting, or did they just get out of the way, or what they do? Anyway, they were totally outnumbered. All those cops were just trying to save their own ass, which I assume they were told, hey, do what you can, but don't be a hero, because they had no chance of stopping them. But we covered many, many, many topics.
We did. I mean, it was a lot. So last words before predictions. Ace or Luke or Jeff, last pieces on this tonight.
I really think that it's been a kind of a sad week just in general where this all has gotten, although a lot of us have known this is going to happen. It has been a sad week that it's gotten to this. The good news is, unlike we really did hold our own. We won. It was a tougher battle than really it should have been, and this is where we need to go back and start patching things up, because if we go back in history, there's been plenty of places where there were first failed coup attempts, and there's a lot of places where there aren't second failed coup attempts.
Right.
We need to make sure that we fix this up. The good news is we held strong, democracy prevailed, and we have a normal president that wasn't stolen away from us that will come in and do good competent government work, and people will start saying, you know what? Because right now, you're going to need the government. Even if you're an anti-government person, when the economy is rocking and rolling, you could sit back and go, oh, those people with the food stamps, oh, those this. Right now, you're going to need this government to work at its best in order to get this COVID under control and vaccines, and it's going to happen, and no one's ever going to take it away from Joe Biden. His team is going to do competent work. That's all we've been asking. They're going to make mistakes, but it's going to be competent, good, forceful U.S. type of work, and we're going to see the numbers just plummet. They're going to do good work.
Mm-hmm.
I know.
I agree. I think so too.
Well, I think the Republicans are going to do everything they can to paint this story that Joe Biden is the most divisive president and all this kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, as I said earlier, America heals with profiles and courage. Profiles and courage. That's what's going to get us through this. It's going to be people being brave. Just be brave, and we're going to get through this. And I like the direction that we're going. I already feel like we have a president. I love a president that doesn't tweet. It's just a beautiful thing.
Yep. Yeah, it really is. Okay, so then let's do predictions. Are there any?
Oh, Jeff, we need to hear Jeff's final word.
Oh, I thought he started us off. I apologize.
No, you told me to wrap up the show.
Yeah,
You told me
dude.
to give the overview.
I'm
I was
telling
going to
you.
say, I'll keep mine short. The maggots are realizing they were pansies. Patsies, sorry, pansies and patsies, but patsies specifically. So they're starting to realize that they were used, you know, and you know, I don't really know what to say. I don't think we hand them tissues. I don't think we pat their back, but they were patsies. You know, the Q shaman is a patsy, and he was suckered into doing something wrong, and he's gonna take the fall. And that's just when you turn off your brain and listen to only one person. You run the risk of being a patsy, and we only warned you for 5 years not to do that. So congratulations.
Seriously.
Following a con man into prison. Good job.
It's not the first time, and it won't be the last time, and that's why we have laws against this stuff, and we try to protect ourselves from it.
Yeah.
All right, predictions. What Ace, you're going first. Let's hear what your prediction is for tonight.
I will make two predictions. Two.
One
is
Woo!
you're going to see a bombardment of pardons, and they're going to be one of them is going to be Edward Snowden. He's going to get pardoned. And then you'll just see, I'm assuming some family members, some not. You're just going to see a ton of pardons. The is, I don't think there's going to be any more violence. I think it's over. I think you're not going to, a lot of these people are seeing how fast the FBI is knocking at their door. And now the reality is set in that, wow, this thing catches up really quickly to me. And they're seeing people get arrested, and people are talking about 20 years. And you're going to skim a huge number. There'll be some rallies, but the numbers are going to be so small, there's not going to be any violence.
Those are great predictions. Thank you. Jeff, you're up, dude.
Well, I'll definitely second my last prediction, which is Trump will never, ever, ever resign. Besides that, I think all of these arrests and the writing on the wall, I'll just take the under that inauguration will be quiet. That inauguration will go well.
Okay, I'm gonna lean into you on that. Is it going to be inside or it will be outside?
I think they'll be outside. They've already set up a perimeter of fencing and stuff. I think they'll do the bulletproof shields like Trump had at the Stop the Steal rally. I think there's ways they can bulletproof an outdoor inauguration. And
I think they're, is it Lady Gaga going to be there?
Did I say J-Lo too?
J-Lo and Lady Gaga. Lady Gaga.
So, the security will be tripled.
Yeah.
Because there's celebrities there that will actually, oh, never mind.
I mean, if anyone shows up to cause trouble, I predict they will not enjoy the response.
Yeah.
The peaceful response from the police ended up with police getting killed. So you can pretty well guarantee if someone shows up to start a fight, they're gonna receive the lion's share of the pain.
They'll find one.
And that's tragic. I don't want anyone to get in that situation. But if you haven't learned your lesson by the 20th, I mean, there's no getting to you, you know?
Yep. Because the United States of America is strong.
Yeah. Stronger than a couple punks, that's for sure.
Show is. Mr. Luke, red, blue.
I think Donald Trump will try to pardon himself and it won't work. It will blow up in his face. And the Supreme Court, even though he did appoint 3 of them on there, will tell him, no, you can't do that. That's not a thing. You can't be your own judge and jury. So sorry, pal. That's not how we do business. And then that's other second prediction. This one I'm really gonna put myself out there, okay? Because
okay,
I mean it's not that it's pretty bold because there's a good chance of it not happening. I think Joe Biden gets his 100 million shots in 100 days. I say he makes it happen.
Oh yeah.
I'll say 150.
It's a simple number.
I'm just saying. Well, I just want him to make his goal of 100, and I say he hits his goal.
I'm saying
I think so
150.
It could be 150 if he hits 100,000. If he hits 100 million,
Promise is kept.
Yeah, its promise is kept, and it's also a practice of governing with goals that are achievable and attainable and accountable. And I think that that's going to be another piece that, as he said, we're going to have to move heaven and earth to do this. So it's not going to be easy, right? And it's going to mean that there's going to be updates about things we aren't even talking about right now that will become issues that in 6 weeks we will all be well-versed in things that we don't know at this particular time, right? Yeah. That's what's going to look like.
Yeah.
Marty prediction.
I'm gonna do 2 as well. I'm sticking with it, and I'm gonna reiterate it. Liz Cheney will be the nominee in 2024.
Woo!
Wow!
Okay.
Wow!
Yep.
Wow!
Yep.
Wow!
And my second one is that there will be Congress people expelled from Congress.
Wow!
Maybe some who have been involved in the plot for the MAGA coup. And also, there's going to be a conversation about all of those, including Kevin McCarthy, who voted. And I don't know if they'll actually expunge him, but there will be committee assignments lost by some of these people that voted to block the impeachment because of the amount of evidence that will be linked to that vote and the protection racket that is part of Trump's thing. I think we haven't seen nothing yet, and we won't get to it till impeachment or even later. So this is not going away. And
I think Ted's going to lose some committees. I wouldn't be surprised to see Tim Scott lose some committees. I wouldn't be surprised to see Roger Marshall not be on a single committee, if that's possible.
Man, I'm with Cal. If Devin Nunes and Jim Jordan get expelled, man, I'm getting my popcorn.
Serious, dude. Whew, for sure. We've been on a road tonight. This is one of the funnest America Heals we've done so far because there's been so much to go through, and we've let it kind of go where it wants to go. Thank you to our audience for liking Heals_America at Heals_America. That's going to be where we're moving. I'm still on my personal stuff as we're in this time, but we're in transition in this thing. Just like to thank everybody for your support, for rooting us on, for being part of this conversation. I know there's a lot of other there's a lot of other Periscopes to be watching out there, but what we're trying to do is develop a conversation that has a touchstone every couple times a week. We're doing Thursdays and Sundays at 10 o'clock Eastern, and it gives us a chance to kind of throw down on some issues. There's a lot of other great scopers out there, but we're doing our thing on this, and I just like to thank everybody. Ace, thanks for being here. Thanks for your editing work. Mr. Luke, Red Blue, thank you for being here. It's Thursday night and you're a fixture and you bring it every time. So thanks very much. And Jeff, thank you for being here.
Yes, sir.
You brought a lot more than Ed McMahon tonight.
You are correct, sir.
And again, follow. We're going to be doing some stuff.
Yep.
We'll be sending out some cups, and we'll be doing all kinds of cool things. Where I think we're going to have we need a logo. We're talking about a logo contest. Eventually, we're going to be doing some cool stuff. We'll build a cool community.
Yeah, that's the point of we're all dealing with this stuff together, and why not, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just nice to be in a scope where we can have disagreement, but we have an agenda and we're trying to head towards positive discussions of things. I mean, who cares, who's got a personal disagreement with whom or name calling or, whatever.
And especially Nate, I would like to thank Nate. I saw him relentlessly asking folks to like us, and I do appreciate that, man, because that pays off for what we're trying to do. I really do appreciate
Kel
it.
also pitched it a couple.
Kel was doing it too. Yep.
Yeah, thanks for moderating, Kel.
Totally, you guys, all the moderators too.
Yeah, I was telling someone to call him no spamming, and she muted him out from underneath me. It was beautiful.
Boom, there you go.
It was very good.
Around.
Yeah, and we're not all right on everything, but positivity is just it's refreshing. We're all going to go back into the craziness, I'm sure,
Right.
10 minutes after this is over, but at least for this time, I really appreciate everybody being here, and we're going to wrap it up now. So have a great week, everybody. See you Sunday night at 10 Eastern, and America Heals. Woo! Profiles in Courage. Rock and roll.
I'll be on the mug.